Chapter 1073. Silence reigned in the hall. The three demon marshals were rooted to the spot, their eyes fixed on the extinguished soul lamp. Gazing at the demon king's back, they could clearly sense the monstrous rage and murderous intent accumulating in his body. Although the demon king stood motionless and looked as calm as ever, his expression would not change even if Mount Tai collapsed in front of him. But the three demon marshals knew that the demon king's rage had reached its peak. The soul lamp has extinguished. The holy maiden's demonic soul has been obliterated. Her original soul is about to awaken. The demon king stared at the soul lamp, his voice low and cold as he murmured. His entire body was filled with dense demonic energy, his aura cold and sinister to the extreme. Once it erupted, it would surely destroy the world. Demon Marshal Minji hurriedly said, "Your Majesty, the holy maiden's soul lamp has just extinguished. You can use a secret technique to find her location. This way, we'll know where the guard took her." The demon king said in a low voice, "This emperor has used a secret technique to find her. The holy maiden is in the southwest, in the snowy mountains 50,000 miles away. The three of you go together. Gather all the guards and bring the holy maiden back. Don't kill the guard called Oolong. Keep him alive. This emperor will personally judge him." The three demon marshals were stunned, their eyes filled with disbelief. They never would have thought that a mere heaven origin stage guard would require 3 soul refinement stage cultivators to go and capture him. Wasn't this making a mountain out of a molehill? But they did not dare to disobey the demon king's order, nor did they dare to question it. They could only obey. This subordinate obeys. "Rest assured, Your Majesty. With the 3 of us working together, we will be able to bring the holy maiden back quickly. Your Majesty, this subordinate will bring the holy maiden back within 2 days and deliver the guard to you. This subordinate will atone for his crimes by meritorious service. If he cannot complete the mission, he will pay with his life." With that, the 3 of them bowed to the demon king and immediately turned to leave the soul palace. A moment later, the 3 of them each led a group of 100 guards and rushed to the southwest as fast as lightning. Other than that, the 3 demon marshals also gave orders to mobilize more than 10,000 guards who were searching for the holy maiden. They formed a circle and approached the target location. Moreover, the few tribes within a radius of 100,000 miles also had to send a large number of elite warriors to cooperate with the guards. In a short span of 2 to 4 hours, a huge encirclement formed by tens of thousands of demon experts quickly spread across the land. With the snow-capped mountain as the center, within a radius of tens of thousands of li, demon warriors were everywhere, rushing over murderously. Not to mention 2 living people, even 2 birds would not be able to escape this encirclement. At noon, the sky was still gloomy and heavy snow was falling. Ji Tianqing left the cave he was temporarily staying in and was flying over a snow-capped mountain. At this moment, he had already changed his original body into the body and attire of his personal guard, Oolong. As for Yun Yao, she was recuperating in seclusion in the sword world. Previously, Ji Tianqing had helped her get rid of the devil soul. Her own soul had awakened, and she had regained control of her body. However, before her soul was demonized, it had been severely injured and had not recovered yet. Her soul was very weak, and she had to recuperate in the sword world for a long time before she could slowly recover. Moreover, she had only regained her consciousness and memories. The problem of her physical body had not been resolved. Her body was still demonizing slowly. Demon blood flowed through her body, and a powerful demonic power was accumulated in her body. However, Ji Tianqing did not have the time to stop and help her solve this problem. He could only leave the demon nest first and think of a solution after he had escaped as far as possible. Ji Ku, Qian Yu, and the little black dragon all knew about this. They all entered the sword world to accompany Yun Yao and help her recuperate. Ji Tianqing flew alone. He only wanted to escape from the northern desert and return to the central region as soon as possible. Although he was in the hinterland of the northern desert and was not far from the demon emperor's nest, he was in a very dangerous situation. However, he had saved Yunyao and helped Yunyao regain her consciousness. His heart was very stable. Unknowingly, for hours had passed. When he was flying above an ice field, a huge black demonic cloud suddenly appeared in the sky beside him. The demonic cloud was very fast. It flew across the sky as fast as lightning and chased after him. Although he was hundreds of miles away, he could vaguely see a small team of demon guards hiding in the demonic cloud. There were a total of 10 demon powerhouses, all of whom had reached the divine origin realm. Seeing this scene, Ji Tianqing's face immediately turned cold. A frightening cold light flashed in his eyes. Damn it! The demon race is so fast. In just one day, they found out that the saintess had been kidnapped by me. They even sent guards to find and kill me. Since this matter has been exposed, it will definitely alarm a few demon commanders. They will definitely send a large number of guards to hunt me down. No, I can't waste time tangling with them. Otherwise, I will be exposed even more thoroughly and be hunted down endlessly. These thoughts flashed through his mind. He silently analyzed and quickly made up his mind. He ignored the guards and exploded with unparalleled power. He accelerated to the south by 2 times. Swoosh! In just 20 breaths, he turned into a bloody light and disappeared into the sky. He had shaken off the guards. However, he had only flown a few hundred miles when he saw 2 huge demonic clouds in the sky in front of him. They attacked him from both sides. In each of the 2 demonic clouds, there were 10 divine origin realm guards. They were all elite powerhouses of the heavenly devil palace. This time, he was surrounded. He had no choice but to fight his way out. His eyes became gloomier. His lips were tightly pursed. He silently took out the broken sword of the burial of heaven. When the 2 demonic clouds were only 10 miles away from him, they stopped in the sky. Swoosh! The demonic clouds immediately dispersed, revealing 20 elite guards wearing black armor and carrying swords. The 2 groups of guards blocked his path. They were not in a hurry to attack. They slowly approached him. That guy looks like a personal guard who made a mistake. Quick, send a signal arrow to inform the demon commander. Many guards stared at Ji Tianqing. They let out low shouts and hurriedly released a signal arrow. A dazzling purple flowing light flew into the sky and exploded in the sky. It turned into purple fireworks that filled the sky like meteors. Such a powerful signal arrow was enough to be seen by everyone within 1,000 miles. I can't stay here for long. I have to end this quickly. Ji Tianqing muttered. Without hesitation, he held the broken sword and took the initiative to attack the guards on the left. Swoosh! His body turned into a bloody light. He cut through the dark sky as fast as lightning. In the blink of an eye, he rushed to the front of the guards. Then, he brazenly swung the broken sword and slashed out a 60-foot-long sword light. Sword drawing style. Chapter 1074. Bang! With a muffled sound, the sword light flashed across the sky and hit the demon guards. Even though there were a few demon guards who were alerted in advance and spread out in all directions. However, the might of this sword strike was truly capable of splitting the heavens and earth apart. It was swift and fierce to an unimaginable degree. 7 Sky Origin Stage Level 2 guards were cut in half by the sword light. Demon blood splashed everywhere. They died on the spot. The other 3 guards were lucky enough to survive, but they were also injured by the sword light. They flew out with blood all over their bodies. Ji Tianqing had only used the power of the 8th level of Sky Origin Stage, but he had killed 7 guards within seconds. He had almost wiped out the entire team. He didn't go after the 3 guards, nor did he look at the dead bodies. He rushed to the team on the right without hesitation. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. With a wave of his right hand, dozens of sharp sword rays shot out and enveloped the group of guards. Every sword light was over 100 feet long. Over 50 sword lights appeared at the same time, covering the sky within a radius of a few thousand meters. The 10 Sky Devil Palace guards were scared out of their wits. They tried to run away in all directions. However, under Ji Tianqing's sword art, they had no chance to survive. Bang, bang, bang. A series of muffled sounds echoed in the sky. 10 elite guards of level 2 and 3 of Sky Origin stage were all cut into pieces by the sword light. They died on the spot. Countless pieces of flesh mixed with black or purple demon blood fell on the ice land from the sky, dyeing the ice land red. The air was filled with the smell of blood, but it was blown away by the wild wind. The pieces of corpses and bloodstains that were scattered on the ice field were quickly covered by the heavy snow. When the third team of guards caught up, the sky was empty. Ji Tianqing was long gone. They hurriedly took out the compass, gemstones, and other materials. They sent out the message using the demon clan's method of communication. Then, they continued their pursuit to the south without stopping. In the next 4 hours, Ji Tianqing had been running as fast as he could. In order not to be discovered, he flew over the clouds in the sky. He didn't dare to stop for even a second. Even so, an hour later, he was still stopped by 2 groups of demons. After all, within 30,000 miles, there was a giant dragnet. Tens of thousands of devil race experts and experts were frantically searching for and surrounding him. One of the teams of demons was made up of guards from the Sky Devil Palace. They were all at level 2 and 3 of Sky Origin stage. The other team was made up of elders and priests from a big tribe nearby. Although there were only 5 of them, they were all above the 5th level of Sky Origin stage. Without a doubt, the 5 of them were all elite demon generals. When the 2 teams met, they didn't need to talk. Even though the guards and experts of the demon race had never seen the personal guard Oolong before, they didn't know what he looked like. But in the current situation, they didn't need to investigate or ask anything. They could just arrest him directly. In any case, as long as it was a young devilish being traveling alone in this area, they were all targets for capture. He would rather kill the wrong person than let him go. Draw your sword. Ji Tianqing's figure flashed and arrived near the guards. He brazenly pulled out his broken sword and slashed out a shocking sword light. Shoo! 100-meter-long cold light tore through the dark sky and hit several guards in an instant. The guards at level 2 and 3 of Sky Origin stage tried their best to defend, but they couldn't resist the power of the sword. Bang! In just a second, the entire team of guards was killed. 8 guards were cut in half by the sword light. 2 guards were injured and flew away. Chunks of flesh and purple-black devil blood splattered across the sky, sprinkling into the clouds. At the same time, the other 5 demon clan experts brandished their swords, sabers, and dharma artifacts. They performed a dozen secret techniques and charged toward Ji Tianqing. The dazzling blood light turned into all kinds of spear shadows, saber lights, and giant blades. They were all slashing down. Black fog, demon chi, all kinds of poisons, and the shadows of demons drowned him. Ji Tianqing was in such a dangerous situation. He didn't panic. He formed a shield with the blood light to protect himself. More than a dozen secret techniques landed on him one after another, causing loud bangs as they hit the blood light shield. Bang! 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 When the blood light and the black fog disappeared, Ji Tianqing appeared in the sky safe and sound. He stared at those demon cultivators coldly. He used the burning sky palm with his left hand and slashed out dozens of sword lights with his right hand. Bang! The giant flaming palm, which was 1,000 meters wide, instantly blasted the 2 demon clan experts away. The 2 of them were blasted into pieces and burned into black ashes that filled the sky. The giant flaming palm didn't stop. It flew for another dozen miles and hit a snow mountain. In an instant, the snowy mountain that was thousands of feet tall collapsed on the spot, turning into a pile of rubble. The ice and snow melted and evaporated into water vapor that rose into the sky. The ruin revealed its original appearance. It was full of dark brown gravel and mud. On the other hand, Ji Tianqing's dozens of swordlights killed two powerhouses on the spot, shredding them into pieces. The only survivor was sent flying with serious injuries. He flew for 1,000 meters and landed in the clouds, covered in blood. He saw 4 of his companions killed instantly. He was scared out of his wits. He turned and ran without hesitation. However, Ji Tianqing caught up to him in a few breaths. He cut him in half with a swing of his sword. Demon blood splattered. The two halves of the corpse fell into the clouds, giving off a strong smell of blood. Ji Tianqing didn't stop. He put away the broken sword and continued flying forward. However, he had only flown 100 kilometers away when a blood-red mist that blotted out the sky caught up to him as quickly as an aurora. An earth-shattering roar came from the blood mist when he was still dozens of miles away. Wulong! You damn beast! Ben Shui is here to catch you. Why aren't you kneeling down and begging to surrender? His voice reverberated in the sky and stirred up the gray clouds. When Ji Tianqing heard this voice, he immediately frowned, and his eyes became very serious. Oh no! It's the Sky Barbaric Demonic Commander. He remembered the Sky Barbaric Demonic Commander's voice and knew that the Sky Barbaric Demonic Commander's strength was around LV6 Spirit Cultivation Realm. Since the Sky Barbaric Demonic Commander was here, the other 2 demonic commanders should be here soon. By then, not only would he expose his identity, but he would also be attacked by a few demonic commanders. He would definitely die on the spot. At the thought of this, his mood and expression were extremely grave. He was anxious and furious. He only hesitated for a moment before he made up his mind. Forget it. So be it if my identity is exposed. No matter what, I can't be bothered by the Sky Barbaric Demonic Commander. I have to shake him off and leave this place as soon as possible. Chapter 1075. Whoosh! Ji Tianqing stepped on the Golden Soul spiritual sword and increased his speed by 3 times. He was like a beam of golden light flashing across the clouds. In just 2 breaths, he had left the Sky Barbarian Demon Commander dozens of miles behind. The Sky Barbarian Demon Commander was stunned. The giant demon face formed by the bloody light was shocked. This bastard! What skill did he use? How could he be so fast? He frowned and thought for a while. Then, he used his soul power to sense the remaining energy waves in the sky. When he sensed the remaining energy waves in the sky, his expression changed drastically. Cold light flashed in his eyes. Damn it! He is not in the Heaven Origin realm, but he has soul power. He has reached the soul tempering realm. No wonder he could escape from the Saintess Palace and kidnap the Saintess. While the Sky Barbarian Demon Commander was shocked, he was also enlightened. He just wanted to catch the blunder and find out who this guy was. He could not understand why a powerhouse in the soul tempering realm did not run for the position of Demon Commander. Why did he risk his life to go against the Demon King? After a while, he calmed down and sped up. At the same time, he also released a communication jade slip to send a message to Minji and Broken Soul Devil General. Ji Tianqing had done everything he could to get rid of the Sky Barbarian Demon Commander. He took the risk of exposing his identity and used his soul spiritual sword to escape. He was really fast. In just 4 hours, he had actually traveled 20,000 miles at full speed. An ordinary powerhouse in the soul tempering realm would need to be at least at LV7 of the soul tempering realm to reach such a speed. As time went by, the Sky Barbarian Demon Commander was left behind. He was like a golden shooting star. He broke through the dark clouds and left the Demon King's lair quickly. Even though he had encountered several groups of demon race experts in the process of flight and escape, he had never seen them before. However, he flew past those demon clan powerhouses at such an incredible speed. He did not stop at all. Finally, after 4 hours, he flew above a snowy mountain range. The Demon King's trap had shrunk to this place. He had to cross this mountain and break out of the encirclement of the demon clan powerhouses to get out of danger. Swish! When Ji Tianqing arrived above the snowy mountain on his sword, he saw several hundred demon experts scattered in the sea of clouds in front of him when he was still 100 kilometers away. Those hundreds of people were all at the Sky Origin stage. They scattered in the sea of clouds, waiting for him to walk into the trap. There were over 20 Sky Origin stage Demon Kings among them. The leader was at the 4th level of the soul refining stage. This man was the chief of a large tribe nearby, named Dishan. He had once received the recognition of the Devil Emperor and almost became the 4th Devil Marshal. However, he declined the Demon Emperor's order and insisted on being the chief of the tribe and leading the people of the tribe. When he saw a streak of golden light appear in the clouds, his eyes were filled with a cold, bloodthirsty light. His entire body was bursting with a powerful battle intent. He shook the blood-red cloak on his shoulders and raised the black heavy sword in his hand. He shouted, "The bastard who kidnapped the Saintess is finally here. Everyone, let's go and capture him. If anyone can capture him alive, I will make him the high priest." Hearing Di Shan's shout, the hundreds of demon clan experts all roared excitedly. Everyone raised their weapons and rushed to Ji Tianqing with murderous intent. They started to besiege him. In their eyes, hundreds of demon experts besieged a bodyguard of the Saintess. Even if one of them spat, he would be drowned. If anyone was too slow, they would not be able to touch the dragon, let alone get the reward from Dishan. In the blink of an eye, over 300 demon experts had rushed to Ji Tianqing. Everyone waved their swords and sabers in unison, slashing out giant blood-red blades and demon phantoms that blotted out the sky and covered the earth towards Ji Tianqing. Swish! 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 Hundreds of secret arts, bloody light and demon chi covered the sky and the sun. They poured down like a heavy rain, covering Ji Tianqing's figure. However, he did not stop, nor was he afraid or dodged the attacks of over 300 Sky Origin stage cultivators. Swish! Golden light flashed on his shoulders and formed a pair of wings. The wings were folded in front of him, covering his body. There was also a sacred and resplendent golden light that condensed into an oval-shaped shield that protected his entire body. At this moment, he did not hide anything. He used the Kenshin battle robe without hesitation and activated the power of the soul-refining realm. Bang! 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 Endless secret technique attacks, all kinds of saber light, sword light, and giant blade phantoms continued to bombard him, causing earth-shattering explosions. The golden light shield was trembling under the attacks, but he did not stop. He continued to charge into the crowd. In the short span of 3 breaths, he had safely crossed 10 miles in the sky, and bravely rushed into the crowd of people. Then, he took out the broken sword, the burial of heaven, and started to kill. Metal Emperor slash. Sky burning palm. Burning sun flame. Demon slaying sword. As Ji Tianqing shouted, huge swords that could split the sky and earth appeared one after another and slashed into the crowd. Huge golden swords that were hundreds of meters long slashed into the crowd. Any demon powerhouse that came into contact with the huge golden swords were either killed or injured. Within a radius of 1,000 meters, the mountain-like palm of fire struck more than 30 demon race experts. Although these people were divine prime powerhouses from various tribes or elite guards of the Heavenly Devil Palace. But in front of the sky-burning palm, they were as weak as paper. They could not resist at all and were instantly killed. 9 scorching suns appeared in the gloomy sky, carrying blazing heavenly fire as they smashed down, blasting the crowd into pieces. Ji Tianqing used all his power and used all kinds of secret arts. He killed in the sky until the sun and moon lost their light. In just 10 short breaths, he used 15 secret arts and sword techniques. More than 300 fiend race powerhouses were actually slaughtered by him rapidly. More than 100 demon powerhouses were killed in an instant. Their bodies were cut in half or turned into pieces. They were mixed with demon blood and scattered into the clouds. The air was filled with the thick smell of blood. The 100 or so surviving demon clan experts were scared out of their wits, and they retreated in horror. Now that things had come to this, they finally understood. The personal guard of the Saintess was not in the divine prime realm. He was in the soul refining realm. They were only in the divine prime realm. No matter how many of them there were, they would not be a match for him. Thinking of this, everyone retreated far away. They turned to look at the most powerful demon on the scene, Di Shan. Di Shan was standing in the sea of clouds, staring at Ji Tianqing in shock. The shocking battle that had occurred earlier had exceeded his expectations, causing him to be completely dumbfounded. Chapter 1076. Di Shan was a soul-refining realm warrior. Of course, he could sense Ji Tianqing's soul power. The soul of the human race was different from that of the demon race. Their powers and auras were quite different. In addition, Ji Tianqing had used all kinds of secret techniques when he was fighting against the 300 demon race warriors. Di Shan could see that they were all secret techniques of the human race. That was why he was sure that this guard of the Saintess was not a demon, but a human in disguise. Moreover, this person must be a soul-refining realm warrior. Hearing Di Shan's roar, the surrounding experts of the demon clan all revealed astonished expressions. Everyone looked at Ji Tianqing in disbelief. They furrowed their brows in confusion and carefully observed him. These Sky Origin Realm warriors couldn't believe that he was a young demon race warrior. How could he be a human in disguise? The demon race's body, blood, and demon chi couldn't be imitated. Di Shan couldn't explain it to them. After all, he was much stronger than them. Bastard, no matter who you are, you will die today. Di Shan shouted with a murderous aura. He rushed toward Ji Tianqing with his heavy sword and launched an attack. Bloodthirsty soul slaying. He held the heavy sword with both hands. When he was 1,000 meters away from Ji Tianqing, he fiercely slashed out a 100-meter-long giant blood blade. The giant blood blade was wrapped in a layer of soul-white light. It contained the power to attack the soul. The giant blood blade pierced through the sky and arrived in front of Ji Tianqing in a flash. It was about to hit him. Ji Tianqing was fearless. He waved the broken sword and launched a counterattack. In order to kill Di Shan as soon as possible and escape from the encirclement, he didn't hold back at all. Sword-drawing style. He shouted, waving the broken sword and slashing out a cold sword light that could tear the sky apart. Boom! The 100-meter-long cold sword light, carrying an invincible and destructive power, fiercely slashed the giant blood blade, creating a dull sound. Suddenly, the giant blood-red blade was cut in half and shattered into pieces that shot out in all directions. The violent shockwave mixed with thousands upon thousands of shards of bloody light formed a bloody torrent that swept across the sky for dozens of miles. The surrounding experts of the demon clan were forced back by the torrent of blood. Many of them were injured and were sent flying while vomiting blood. Di Shan's attack was crushed, but the power of the cold sword light was not reduced at all. It struck him hard. With a muffled bang, he was sent flying 10 miles away on the spot, falling from the sky. The armor in front of Di Shan's chest had been torn apart by the cold sword light, leaving a long and narrow wound on his chest. The wound was so deep that it almost cut Di Shan into two. He could even see his purple heart through the wound. Dark purple demonic blood gushed out like a fountain and sprinkled in the sky. Di Shan was severely injured by this sword attack and his body was almost destroyed. He struggled to fly back into the sky. His figure staggered as he stood in the sky, looking particularly miserable. The intense pain attacked him, causing his entire body to tremble. Billowing demonic energy and power gushed out of the wound and quickly spread out. His strength was rapidly weakening, and the murderous aura around him had weakened a lot. Damn it! You are so powerful, you are at least at the 5th level of the soul refining realm. Someone with your strength can't be a nobody in the human race. Di Shan held the heavy sword with both hands and stared at Ji Tianqing. He shouted in a low and cold voice, "Speak. Who are you?" Ji Tianqing glanced at him coldly and said indifferently, "You don't have the right to know my name." As he spoke, golden light gushed out of his body. His body merged with the golden light and turned into a 100-meter-long giant sword. The giant sword exploded with a destructive power, carrying an extreme murderous aura, and slashed toward Di Shan. The giant sword contained the power of the divine soul. It lit up with a dazzling white light and formed a giant white tiger shadow. White Tiger Sacred Sword. In an instant, the white tiger sacred sword arrived in front of Di Shan and drowned his figure. Di Shan felt the terrifying power of the white tiger sacred sword. His eyes were filled with fear and despair. No. He let out a desperate roar and used all the power he had in his life. He activated the 4 divine soul Dharma eyes and used the secret art of the devil path. Blood wings seal the sky. Blood light gushed out of his body and formed a pair of 100-meter wide wings to protect him. The dark red, dazzling blood light immediately lit up the surrounding dozens of miles and dyed the sky blood red. The 4 blazing white soul Dharma eyes also released an endless amount of white soul light, which formed a light shield around him to protect him. In the next moment, the white tiger sacred sword slashed the white light shield, producing a deafening sound. Boom! The divine soul light shield that Di Shan had formed with all his strength couldn't withstand a single blow and shattered on the spot. The 4 divine soul Dharma eyes also dimmed and retreated back into Di Shan's body. Then, the white tiger sacred sword slashed the blood light wings. The defense of the blood light wings was very strong, but it couldn't withstand Ji Tianqing's all-out attack. In an instant, the blood light wings were shattered by the white tiger sacred sword and turned into blood light fragments that scattered in all directions. Without the protection of the divine soul light shield and the blood light wings, Di Shan was slashed by the white tiger sacred sword. His body was cut into 2 pieces on the spot and scattered in the sky along with the blood light fragments. In just 2 moves, Di Shan's body was destroyed. The more than 100 devil race experts in the sky were scared out of their wits when they witnessed this scene with their own eyes. Originally, Di Shan was an unattainable transcendent expert in their eyes. He was comparable to a top devil commander expert. However, they had never imagined that the extremely powerful Di Shan would actually be unable to withstand the attack of his personal guard's blunder, and that his body would be destroyed in merely 2 moves. This was just too terrifying. Only now did they realize that the target they were besieging had such transcendent strength. At this moment, a white light flew out of Di Shan's body and streaked across the sky toward the north as fast as lightning. It was Di Shan's divine soul. He was in complete despair and had no fighting spirit left. He just wanted to escape from this place alive. But Ji Tianqing would never let him go. He had been waiting for this moment. He waved his broken sword and slashed out a blazing white light blade. Kaboom! The white light sword blade, which was condensed by the power of the spirit, hit Di Shan's spirit on the spot and cut it into pieces, scattering all over the sky. Di Shan was completely dead. Both his body and soul were destroyed. The more than 100 devil race experts were scared out of their wits. They didn't dare to stay any longer and scattered in all directions. Ji Tianqing didn't chase after them. He sped up and flew toward the south to escape the encirclement. However, a devil cloud that covered the sky chased after him and arrived behind Ji Tianqing in the blink of an eye. The Sky Barbaric Devil Commander's angry roar came from the devil cloud. Chapter 1077. Ji Tianqing did not expect the Sky Barbarian Demonic Commander to come so quickly. Although he had killed more than 100 demonic tribe experts and Di Shan, who was at the LV4 Spirit Tempering Realm, they had been delayed. However, these people had delayed him for quite some time, allowing the Heaven Barbarian Demon Marshal to catch up. Ji Tianqing was furious. He sped up, trying to get rid of the Sky Barbarian Demonic Commander. However, the Sky Barbarian Demonic Commander did not give up. With the help of a soul-level Dharma treasure, he sped up. After Ji Tianqing broke out of the encirclement, he flew for more than 10,000 miles in the sky. The Sky Barbarian Demonic Commander caught up with him when he was above a vast ice field. Swoosh! The demonic cloud covered in blood-red radiance was only 1,000 meters behind him. It released boundless blood-red radiance that covered an area of 30 miles. Swoosh! The overwhelming blood-red light turned into a light shield that was dozens of miles wide. It was like a heavenly canopy that sealed off the entire space. There was no doubt that it was the Sky Barbarian Demonic Commander's spiritual territory. The blood-red radiance released invisible spiritual energy and suppressed Ji Tianqing. He felt like he was in a quagmire and could not move. He had no choice but to stop flying. He stood in the sky and turned around to fight with the broken sword in his hand. The Sky Barbarian Demonic Commander showed up. He stood 1,000 meters away from him and looked at him with a hideous smile. Behind the Sky Barbarian Demonic Commander, there were 6 white spiritual Dharma eyes floating. They were like 6 huge eyeballs that stared at Ji Tianqing. Little bastard, aren't you good at running away? Keep running. The Sky Barbarian Demonic Commander extended his 4 wings and 6 arms. He stared at Ji Tianqing with his single eye that was filled with bloodlust. He was furious and filled with murderous intent. However, he had caught up with Ji Tianqing and trapped Ji Tianqing with his spiritual territory. He was not in a hurry to attack. Ji Tianqing had caused him so much trouble that he was almost executed by the demonic emperor. If he directly killed Ji Tianqing, how could he vent the anger and hatred in his heart? He wanted to slowly torture Ji Tianqing to death, using all kinds of cruel and vicious methods to torture Ji Tianqing. Brat, Ben Shui really underestimated you. I didn't expect you to be in the spirit refining realm. No wonder you dared to break into the Saintess Palace and kidnap her. Even Di Shan, who was at the 4th level of the soul refining stage, was killed by your sword. However, no matter how strong you are, Ben Shui can easily kill you. Ji Tianqing had been silent the whole time. He didn't waste any time talking nonsense with him. He directly waved his broken sword and launched an attack. Draw your sword. He wielded the broken sword with all his might, slashing out a shocking sword light that tore apart the dark red sky and charged towards the Sky Barbaric Demon Commander. The Heaven Barbarian Demonic Commander was smirking. He did not expect Ji Tianqing to start the fight without saying a word. He was stunned for a moment. Seeing the chilling sword light that tore apart the sky and earth, his pupils contracted and he was extremely alert. However, in the spiritual zone, he was the master of this space. Swoosh! In a flash, he teleported 1,000 meters away and narrowly avoided the attack of the chilling sword light. However, just as he heaved a sigh of relief, the chilling sword light changed direction and attacked him from behind. This time, the Heaven Barbarian Demonic Commander was unable to dodge in time and was hit by the chilling sword light. Bam! In a muffled sound, his cape was cut off by the sword light. His armor was torn apart and a huge wound appeared on his back. Demonic blood was gushing out. The peerlessly violent impact blasted him 10 miles away before coming to a stop. After he steadied himself in the sky, he glared at Ji Tianqing from afar. There was intense hatred and killing intent in his eyes. Beast! You're not from my tribe. You're a human. Although he was injured by Ji Tianqing, the wound on his back was so deep that his bones could be seen. However, this kind of injury was nothing to him. He quickly suppressed it with a secret technique. What really made him furious was that when Ji Tianqing used this sword technique, he exposed the aura of a human spiritual zone. The Sky Barbarian Demon Commander glared at him with an icy expression and shouted in a dark voice, "Who are you, you little piece of shit? Why are you pretending to be one of my people?" Ji Tianqing silently circulated his cultivation and adjusted his breathing. He took the opportunity to take 2 soul-grade medicinal pills to recover his magic power. He pursed his lips and said nothing. He stared at the Heaven Barbarian Demonic Commander coldly and refused to admit it. As the Heaven Barbarian Demonic Commander cursed, he used his spiritual power to perform the Evil Eye secret technique to check Ji Tianqing's spiritual zone. Soon, he sensed something unusual. His expression changed and he thought to himself, "This kid's spiritual power and aura are familiar. I think I've seen them somewhere before." He must be a human powerhouse who used his spiritual power to take over Oolong's body. He pretended to be Oolong and secretly kidnapped the Saintess. Human powerhouses who are around the 5th level of the soul cultivation realm are famous. Ben Shuai must have heard of them. This guy risked his life to break into the Saint Mountain and the Saintess Palace to rescue Yunyao. He must be very close to Yunyao. The Heaven Barbarian Demonic Commander's body shook as he thought of something. Could he be Yunyao's father, Yun Zhongqi, the Palace Master of Cloud Spirit Palace? Yun Zhongqi's strength was around the 5th level of the soul cultivation realm. Ben Shuai had fought with him before, so he was familiar with his spiritual power. No. This guy's spiritual power was not Yun Zhongqi's. The secret technique he used did not seem to be Yun Zhongqi's technique either. Then who could he be? Who would risk their lives to break into the Saint Mountain to rescue Yunyao? Could he be Ji Tianqing? That's impossible. Ji Tianqing is only at the 8th or 9th level of the Sky Origin stage. How could he reach the 5th level of the soul cultivation realm in such a short time? The Heaven Barbarian Demonic Commander frowned as he analyzed the situation. The more he thought about it, the more confused he became. Ji Tianqing saw that the Heaven Barbarian Demonic Commander was lost in thought, so he took the opportunity to attack again. Sky-splitting sword. He held the broken sword with both hands and poured in the most powerful spiritual power. He unleashed the most powerful attack and slashed out a giant sword that could split the sky and the earth. That was the union of man and nature. It was the most powerful attack after the sword drawing style. The giant sword that was 100 meters long was gold and white. It fell from the sky and slashed at the Heaven Barbarian Demonic Commander. At that moment, the demonic chi in the sky was dispelled. The sky became bright and clean. The Heaven Barbarian Demonic Commander came to himself immediately. He looked at the giant sword seriously and teleported away to dodge it. Whoosh! He teleported 1,000 meters to the left and narrowly dodged the attack of the giant sword. He had been hurt once before, so he did not dare to relax. He teleported 1,000 meters away again, trying to get as far away from the giant sword as possible. Even so, the heaven-splitting giant sword had locked onto the aura of his divine soul, and it still slashed at him from 2,000 meters away. Bang! With a loud noise, the Heaven Barbarian Demonic Commander was knocked away again. Chapter 1078. The Sky Barbarian Demon Commander's injuries worsened again. The 2 wounds on his back were half a meter long. They were so deep that his bones could be seen. Demon blood kept gushing out. For the time being, he could only perform a secret technique to suppress his injuries and stop the bleeding. After suffering such heavy injuries, his combat power was greatly reduced. His strength was also draining. He was so furious that he was on the verge of going mad. His eyes surged with raging flames of rage, and they became dark red like blood. "You bastard! Ben Shui will skin you alive and let you experience all kinds of pain and torture." He stared at Ji Tianqing and cursed him viciously. As he said that, he waved his palms and performed a secret technique to control the power of his godly soul territory. He formed thousands of bloody blades and demon shadows. Obviously, he had gone completely mad. He was going to perform his ultimate move with all his might. Ji Tianqing's face and heart were heavy. He stared at him cautiously, looking for an opportunity to attack. Although he had injured the Sky Barbarian Demon Commander, he knew very well that he was no match for the Sky Barbarian Demon Commander. The sword-drawing form and sky-splitting sword were his most powerful ultimate moves. However, he could not injure the Sky Barbarian Demon Commander after performing these two ultimate moves consecutively. He could not even destroy the Sky Barbarian Demon Commander's body. If it were a normal secret technique, it would be even harder to injure the Sky Barbarian Demon Commander. The Sky Barbarian Demon Commander had not performed his ultimate move yet. Once he did, it would be earth-shattering. Since I'm no match for the Sky Barbarian Demon Commander, I can't waste too much time with him. The other two demon commanders must be on their way. If I'm held back by the Sky Barbarian Demon Commander, I'll definitely be killed when the other three demon commanders attack me. I have to get out of his godly soul territory as soon as possible and shake him off. Ji Tianqing analyzed in his heart. He looked around anxiously, looking for a breakthrough. At this moment, the Sky Barbarian Demon Commander's strength had reached its peak. He performed his ultimate move. 7 Luminaries Demon Dance of the Sky. He waved his palms as fast as lightning. He controlled the vast power of his territory and released a terrifying force that suppressed the world. It pressed down on Ji Tianqing. At the same time, the gigantic bloody blades, sword beams, and spear shadows that blotted out the sky, mixed with the 7 bloody suns and the 9 bloody demonic dragons, shot towards Ji Tianqing. In that instant, the entire spiritual domain was in chaos. It was completely submerged by the dark red light, turning into a world of blood. Ji Tianqing was suppressed by the terrifying domain power, unable to move an inch, unable to dodge the attacks that filled the sky. Even the sword soul battle technique that he had created had no place to be used at this time. He couldn't use it at all. Tens of thousands of giant blood-red blades, saber lights, and spear shadows were the first to strike down, enveloping his figure. At this critical moment, he could only spread his golden wings to protect himself. Wings of the Golden Rock. Boom boom boom. The overwhelming saber lights and sword images continuously bombarded the golden wings, producing loud sounds that shook the heavens. The golden wings trembled continuously, creating layers of ripples, and the golden light became dimmer. Ji Tianqing was beaten until he staggered and fell from the sky to the ground. Immediately afterwards, 7 blood-red balls of light that were like scorching suns and 9 blood-red demonic dragons that were 1,000 meters long also descended from the sky. Boom 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 boom. Another series of muffled sounds exploded, shaking the world. Ji Tianqing was completely submerged by the bloody suns and demonic dragons. The golden rock's wings dimmed and retracted back into its body after its power was exhausted. Then, he was blasted from the sky and smashed into the ice field below. Accompanied by cracking sounds, the ice field within a radius of dozens of miles was smashed into pieces. Ice crystals burst into the sky, the bloody fragments covered the sky, and the dark brown rocks and earth were exposed. Ji Tianqing was lying in the ruins, covered in blood. His body trembled, and his breath became weaker. Finally, the hurricane that swept through the world dissipated, and the bloody light that blotted out the sky disappeared. Ji Tianqing struggled for a while, shook off the dirt and rocks that buried him, and flew back into the sky. His hair was disheveled, and his body was covered in wounds. His white bones were exposed, and blood kept flowing out. This demonic body was riddled with holes and was on the verge of collapse. If he didn't use his original body, he would have to use a lot of magic power to suppress his injuries. At this moment, the Sky Barbarian demonic commander stood high in the sky and looked down at him, laughing wildly. Ha ha ha. Benshui finally knows. No matter how well you hide, you can't escape Benshui's eyes. Benshui finally knows who you are. Bloody flames surged all over his body, and he stared at Ji Tianqing with his only eye. He said in a mocking and cruel tone, "I didn't expect this. Ji Tianqing, it's you, you little bastard. You've reached the spirit-refining realm in just a few months. That's incredible. No wonder you're not afraid of death and dared to come to the northern desert and break into the sacred mountain alone to rescue your wife, Yin Yao. Benshui was worried about not being able to find you. I didn't expect you to come to me yourself." There was no doubt that the Sky Barbarian demonic commander had seen through Ji Tianqing's identity. He had suspected that the Blunder Dragon might be Ji Tianqing in disguise. When he saw the golden rock unfurling wings, he was sure that the Blunder Dragon was Ji Tianqing. Although the answer was shocking and unbelievable to him, he still couldn't believe it. But he believed that it was the truth. Ji Tianqing's face was very gloomy, and his body was filled with murderous intent. He knew that once he used his divine spirit power to fight the Sky Barbarian demonic commander, his identity would be exposed. Now that the Sky Barbarian demonic commander had recognized him, he was not surprised. It was only a matter of time. He decided not to hide anymore and gave up on the Blunder Dragon's body. After his divine spirit left his body, it returned to his original body. Swoosh! A white light flashed, and Ji Tianqing's original body appeared in the sky. He was wearing a white robe, and his long hair was draped over his shoulders. His face was handsome, and his body was tall and straight. He looked like a peerless genius. Sky Barbarian demonic commander, so what if you have seen through my identity? You are not strong enough to stop me, let alone kill me. Ji Tianqing looked at the Sky Barbarian demonic commander coldly and shouted with murderous intent, "On the day of my wedding with Yun Yao, you followed the demonic king to kill us and kidnap my wife, Yun Yao. I will never forget this blood feud for the rest of my life. One day, I will pay you back 100-fold. Then, he raised his left arm, which was as red as magma, and slapped out a huge flaming palm. Burning Sky Palm. The burning sky palm, which was as huge as a mountain, slammed toward the Sky Barbarian demonic commander with a destructive force. The raging red fire turned the surrounding area into a sea of fire. The Sky Barbarian demonic commander looked fearful. He quickly used a secret technique to block the burning sky palm. Chapter 1079. Boom! Amidst a loud, muffled sound, a hole was sliced open in the blood-red light barrier that covered several dozen kilometers in the sky. The divine soul realm that the Sky Barbarian demon commander formed with his divine soul Dharma eyes was indeed powerful. However, the realm was dozens of miles wide after all. How could it block the unparalleled sword chi of the sword draw form? When the 10-meter-long hole appeared, Ji Tianqing flew over without hesitation. He went through the hole and escaped from the divine soul realm. He was prepared and didn't want to be entangled with the Sky Barbarian demon commander. He just wanted to get out of here and get rid of the Sky Barbarian demon commander. Swish! After he escaped from the divine soul realm, he immediately took out his divine soul Dharma sword. He stepped on the 3-meter-long golden sword and flew to the south. In the divine soul realm, the sky-burning palm hit the Sky Barbarian demon commander and sent him flying. Although he had blocked the terrifying power of the sky-burning palm and was only slightly injured, he was delayed. However, he had been delayed and was unable to stop Ji Tianqing from escaping. When he rushed out of the flames, Ji Tianqing had already escaped from the divine soul realm and was 20 miles away. Bastard! Ji Tianqing, you sinister and despicable bastard, this marshal will definitely skin you alive and pull out your tendons. The Sky Barbarian Demon Commander cursed angrily. He immediately put away the Divine Soul Realm and started to chase after Chen Fan. Unfortunately, Ji Tianqing had opened up a distance of 30 miles between them. Even if he used the power of a soul-level Dharma treasure to chase after Ji Tianqing, he couldn't catch up with him in a short time. The two of them streaked across the sky one after the other, flying towards the south at the speed of light. 30 minutes after they left, two giant demonic clouds and crimson light appeared in the sky and flew toward them at lightning speed. The demonic clouds that were as black as ink and covered an area of 10 miles were formed by the demon commander Mingyi. The crimson light was formed by the second demon commander, Severed Soul. Both of them received the news and rushed over to kill Ji Tianqing regardless of the consequences. They were still thousands of miles away from the Sky Barbarian Demon Commander and Ji Tianqing. However, the two of them were stronger, and their flying speed was faster. They were slowly closing the distance between them. In another 4 or 5 days, they would catch up with Sky Barbarian Demon General and Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing stepped on the Divine Soul Golden Sword and flew continuously in the sky for 2 days. During this period of time, he didn't encounter any more attacks from the Devil Clan. After all, he had already escaped the encirclement. Even though the surrounding tribes had received orders from the Demon Emperor and the Demon Commander, and were trying to stop him, the Demon Emperor and the Demon Commander were still trying their best. However, the number of experts from those tribes was small, and they were scattered in all directions. It was impossible for them to intercept him. He flew without stopping, not daring to relax at all. Even though the Divine Soul Golden Sword had consumed too much of its power and its golden light was getting dimmer and dimmer, he didn't dare to stop. Even though he was physically and mentally exhausted and weak, he did not dare to rest. After all, the Sky Barbarian Demon Commander had been hot on his tail for dozens of miles. After 2 days and 2 nights of pursuit, the Sky Barbaric Demon Commander's power had been greatly depleted. He gradually slowed down, and the distance between him and Ji Tianqing increased. However, before he took action, he had made a military order to the Demon King. If he couldn't capture Ji Tianqing alive, he would have to commit suicide as an apology. Therefore, he wouldn't give up no matter what. He swore to catch up with Ji Tianqing even if he had to chase him to the ends of the earth. He hurriedly took out a magic treasure and used it to fly as fast as he could. It was a flying Dharma treasure. It was a black and quaint flying boat. The flying boat was like a small boat. It was 10 meters long and 3 meters wide. There were 2 pairs of black wings on the boat, and it looked like a dragonfly that had been magnified countless times. The Sky Barbarian Demon Commander stayed in the flying boat and kept filling the formation of the flying boat with blood crystals and gemstones to provide a huge amount of energy for the flying boat. The flying boat shone with a dazzling blood light and flew across the sky at lightning speed, chasing after Ji Tianqing at an extremely fast speed. The distance between the two of them began to shrink again. However, using the flying boat consumed a lot of energy. It consumed hundreds of blood crystals and gemstones every 2 hours. The resources in the northern desert were very poor. Even an expert like the Sky Barbarian Demon Commander didn't have enough gemstones and resources in his pockets. He chased after Ji Tianqing with the flying boat for 2 days and finally caught up with him. In these 2 days, the flying boat had consumed 20,000 gemstones and 10,000 blood crystals. The Sky Barbarian Demon Commander only had so many resources in his interspatial ring, and they were almost used up. He was so angry that he almost vomited blood. After catching up with Ji Tianqing, he attacked furiously and swore to tear Ji Tianqing into pieces. Swoosh! He got out of the flying boat and stood in front of Ji Tianqing. After putting away the flying boat, he took out a pair of dark purple demonic swords and charged at Ji Tianqing with murderous intent. Ji Tianqing, you little bastard! Ben Shui will skin you alive. Sky Barbarian Demon Commander roared furiously. He swung his swords and unleashed a barrage of blood-red swords toward Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing didn't hold back either. He immediately performed his ultimate move and counterattacked. Thunderbolt. He opened the third eye on his forehead. Destructive thunderbolt energy was released from his azure blue eyes. Kaboom! A thunderbolt light pillar as thick as a water tank appeared and shattered the blood sword radiance in the sky, drowning the Sky Barbarian Demon Commander. With a muffled sound, the Sky Barbarian Demon Commander was blasted 10 miles away and fell into a snow mountain below. Boom! The snow mountain that was thousands of feet tall was smashed into pieces by him. Gravel and snow flew everywhere. His body was charred like charcoal with black smoke rising from it. There were still lightning arcs flashing around him. He wasn't killed by the thunderbolt and his body wasn't destroyed. However, he was numb and powerless. He was badly mutilated and looked miserable. Ah! The Sky Barbarian Demon Commander crawled out from the ruins and flew into the sky while screaming and cursing hysterically. Bastard! Bastard! You reptile! Ben Shui will fight you to the death. He went berserk on the spot. He unleashed all his power and performed his ultimate move to fight Ji Tianqing to the death. Ancient Demonic Seal. He waved both of his palms, performing a mysterious hand seal, forming a blood-red light seal that descended from the sky and struck down from the sky. The blood-red seal formed by the ancient demonic words released a mysterious power that suppressed Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing was caught off guard. He spat out blood and his face turned pale. Then, hundreds of demonic seals came down and drowned him. At the critical moment, he entered the sword world without hesitation and hid in peaceful Soil City. Bang! 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 Countless demonic seals came down. The mysterious power hit the broken sword, burial of heaven, and loud thuds were heard. However, the broken sword was unharmed. It was still ancient, black, and cold. The Heaven Barbarian Demon Commander would not be able to destroy the broken sword even if he were to use all of his skills and techniques. Chapter 1080. Whoosh! Buried heaven steered the broken sword and streaked across the sky like an aurora, flying toward the south. In the blink of an eye, the broken sword had flown 20 miles away, shaking off the Sky Barbaric Demonic Commander. After all, the broken sword was a supreme-grade soul-level Dharma treasure. It was very close to the primordial soul-level divine artifact. Its flying speed was unbelievably fast. By the time the Sky Barbaric Demonic Commander realized what was going on, the broken sword was already 25 miles away. Then, the Sky Barbaric Demonic Commander had to take out blood crystals and gems to power the flying boat so that he could continue to chase after Ji Tianqing. In just half a day, the remaining resources in his infinite space ring were all used up. However, he still could not catch up with Ji Tianqing. They were dozens of miles apart. The flying boat lost its support and soon stopped flying, gradually coming to a stop. The Heaven Barbarian Demon Marshal had not only failed to capture Ji Tianqing, but he had also used up all the resources he had accumulated over the years. Furthermore, he had been beaten to a pulp by Ji Tianqing and had sustained serious injuries. He was so angry that his lungs almost exploded. He gritted his teeth in anger, but there was nothing he could do. He could only keep the flying boat and flap his wings to continue chasing after Ji Tianqing. The result was obvious. His speed was much slower than broken swords, and it did not take long for him to be left behind. The broken sword flew towards the south without any hindrance. It was not blocked anymore. In the world inside the sword, Ji Tianqing stayed in a palace in the peaceful Earth City to heal his injuries. The palace was a building in the city lord's residence. Only he, Yun Yao, Ji Ku, the little black dragon, and Qian Yu lived there. The Golden Mountain King had specially built this place for them. It was extremely luxurious and comfortable. Ji Tianqing stayed in the secret room filled with spiritual qi. He took a few soul-level elixirs to heal his injuries and recover his dermic powers. Yun Yao was cultivating in the secret room next to his. Her soul injuries had already healed by 50%. Her soul and mental state would return to normal in 7 or 8 days at most. However, with demonic blood flowing through her body was slowly demonizing. Ji Ku, the little black dragon, and Qian Yu were all in seclusion, trying their best to increase their strength. Very quickly, a day and night passed. Ji Tianqing cultivated in seclusion for an entire day. His injuries had healed by 80%, and his strength had also returned to its peak. Only then did he leave the sword world and appear in the sky. At this moment, he was still in the hinterland of the northern desert, above an ice mountain and snowfield. The broken sword floated in front of him, its aura slightly weaker than before. He didn't need to ask the burial of heaven to guess that the broken sword must have consumed a lot of yuan qi after flying for 2 days. Now that the sky barbarian demon marshal had been shaken off, he was no longer in a hurry to escape. As he flew, he asked the burial of heaven, have you been intercepted or surrounded in the past 2 days? The burial of heaven's voice sounded in his mind. He replied calmly, I haven't. With my speed, other than the demon marshals, no one can discover or intercept me. However, during my flight, I have seen the demon race searching everywhere several times. It seems that they are here to intercept us. Hearing this, Ji Tianqing immediately frowned and said with a serious expression, it seems that the sky barbarian demon marshal must have sent the news back and reported it to the demon king. The demon king has ordered countless tribes to send out experts to search and intercept me. The burial of heaven nodded and said in a low voice, Tianqing, the northern desert is the demon race's territory after all. There are countless tribes and cities. As long as the demon king gives the order, he can use a special communication method to spread the news throughout the northern desert in 2 or 3 days. I think the demon king will be furious when he knows that you are the one who kidnapped the saintess. He will definitely set up an inescapable net in advance to catch you and never let you escape from the northern desert. Ji Tianqing sneered with a mocking expression, so what if the demon king vomits blood in anger? I am already far away from the heavenly devil palace. He can't find me at all. Besides, other than the demon king and the 3 demon marshals, who can stop me? I have to hurry back to the central region and find a way to get rid of the demon blood and the demonized body for Yao Yao. The burial of heaven was silent for a while and said in a low voice, Tianqing, the demon race's power and the number of experts are far beyond your imagination. The demon king and the demon marshals are far more than the demon race's experts in the spirit refinement realm. Don't forget, other than the ancient demon emperor, there are 2 other demon lords who have declared themselves demon emperors. They also have a large number of experts under their command. Besides, the demon king must have ordered countless experts to rush to the south of the northern desert and wait for you to walk into the trap. Even if you can cross the northern desert smoothly, it will be very difficult for you to cross the border, let alone return to the central region safely. Hearing the burial of heaven's reminder, Ji Tianqing pondered for a while and nodded, you are right. With the demon king's nature and methods, he will definitely do that. Anyway, this place is not far from White Mountain City. If worse comes to worst, I will sneak into White Mountain City and ask for information when I pass by. The burial of heaven agreed with his idea and warned, sneaking into the city to ask for information is very dangerous. You must be careful. I am very worried that the major tribes and cities have built teleportation arrays. In that case, the demon marshals and a large number of experts will be able to reach White Mountain City or the south in advance and wait there to intercept you. Ji Tianqing was not unfamiliar with teleportation arrays. When he and Kun Wu went to the imperial court of the monster race in the western wilderness, they went from the Star Moon Manor outside the central region city to their destination via the mother-child soaring shuttle. If the major tribes and main cities of the demon race had built teleportation arrays, it would be a big problem. With a heavy heart, he maintained his vigilance and continued to fly to the south. 4 hours later, night fell. Ji Tianqing flew to a vast snowy mountain and stopped in the sky. 100 miles ahead of him was White Mountain City surrounded by snowy mountains. He did not rashly enter White Mountain City. First, he hid in the snowy mountains outside the city and secretly observed the situation in the city. About an hour later, he saw a ball of dark red blood light flying out of White Mountain City. That ball of blood light flew across the night sky and headed toward the snowy mountain Ji Tianqing was hiding in. When he got closer, he could clearly see that there were several demon race experts in the sky origin realm in that ball of blood light. Among them, the 2 leaders were wearing armor and helmets. They seemed to be the guard commander and the demon general. The other 6 experts of the demon race, judging from their clothes, seemed to be the elders and priests of some tribes. This team flew over the snowy mountain and leisurely flew in the sky. Everyone spread out and released their spiritual awareness, as if searching for something. Ji Tianqing immediately guessed that these people were most likely carrying out some mission, and it was very likely related to him. Therefore, he quietly followed behind the team, waiting for an opportunity to make his move. He wanted to catch those experts of the demon race and get some information from them. Half an hour later, the team flew more than 300 miles away from White Mountain City. Chapter 1081. 8 Heavenly Origin Realm Demon Clan experts were flying in the night sky, searching carefully. Ji Tianqing silently snuck behind one of the experts and suddenly launched an attack. He released a vast amount of spiritual energy, condensed it into an invisible spiritual blade, and stabbed it at the Demon Clan expert. Buzz! The Demon Clan expert didn't notice and was immediately hit in the head by the spiritual blade. The Divine Soul blade rushed into his head and instantly shattered his soul, killing him instantly. His body trembled, and his vitality was immediately cut off. He closed his eyes. His body also fell from the sky, crashing into the snow mountain below. Ji Tianqing was prepared. With a wave of his hand, he caught the corpse and put it into the spiritual treasure space of the soul-reaping bell. This scene happened in a flash. It was unbelievably fast. The other 7 Demon Clan experts didn't notice anything unusual and were still focused on searching. Ji Tianqing hid in the night sky and silently snuck toward the second Demon Clan expert. When he arrived behind the Demon Clan expert, he used the same trick again. He released an invisible spiritual blade and slashed it at the Demon Clan expert. Buzz! There was a muffled sound in the spiritual dimension. The middle-aged demon's body stiffened, and his soul was instantly destroyed. His body fell powerlessly. Ji Tianqing immediately caught it and put it into the soul-reaping bell. Next, he snuck toward the third Demon Clan expert. However, when he used the same trick to kill this person, the others finally realized that something was wrong. The 2 demon race experts stopped flying and stood in the sky, looking around in confusion. Where are the other 3? That's not right. They were just nearby. How did they disappear in the blink of an eye? The 2 of them muttered in confusion and transmitted their voices to each other. The other 3 Demon Clan experts who were further away also noticed the abnormality and quickly flew over to ask about the situation. What's going on? What happened? Did you find some clues? Ji Tianqing, who was hiding in the dark, saw the 5 Demon Clan experts gathered together to discuss this matter. His eyes immediately flashed with a bright light. Good chance. He made a prompt decision and revealed himself. Waving his palms, he sent out 5 giant golden swords towards the 5 devil race experts. Swish! Swish! 5 10-meter-long golden swords lit up with dazzling golden light, immediately illuminating the night sky. In the blink of an eye, the golden sword light struck the 5 demon race powerhouses. The 5 of them were all at the 4th or 5th level of Sky Origin stage. Even though they knew something was wrong, they didn't have the time to dodge or defend. With a series of muffled bangs, the 3 demon race experts were killed on the spot. Their bodies were cut into pieces by the sword light, and their blood splattered in the night sky. The 2 surviving demon clan experts were also severely injured. Their bodies were covered in blood as they flew backward and fell to the snowy ground below. Of course, the reason why these 2 people were able to survive was not because they were strong, nor was it because they had some kind of magic treasure to protect themselves. It was because Ji Tianqing had deliberately left them alive. Of the 2 survivors, one of them was wearing armor and a helmet, looking like a guard commander. The other one was a purple-haired old man with a solemn face, who looked like a priest of some tribe. The 2 of them fell from the sky and were about to hit the snowy mountain below. At the critical moment, Ji Tianqing sent out a giant golden palm and caught the 2 of them. He landed on the top of the snowy mountain and threw the 2 bloody demon clan powerhouses onto the cold snowy ground. The 2 of them didn't have time to care about their wounds. They just stared at him with their eyes wide open, full of anger and fear. Human. 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 Are you? Ji Tianqing. Damn it. Why did you come back to the White Mountain City? How dare you come back? Both of their voices were filled with shock and fear. When Ji Tianqing saw their reactions, a playful sneer appeared on his face. Oh. You have heard of my name and know that I have been to the White Mountain City? Ha. Ha. Great. I have found the right person. As he spoke, he waved his palms and formed a formation seal, setting up a temporary formation with a radius of 10 meters to seal off the snowy area. With the protection of the formation, his conversation with the 2 demon clan powerhouses would not be heard or discovered by outsiders. He looked down at the 2 of them and said coldly, "You are both smart people. Since you know who I am, you should know that I can kill you as easily as blowing off dust. My time is precious. I hope you can be smart and answer my questions obediently. Only then will you have a chance to live. Tell me who you are." The armored man and the purple-haired old man looked at each other and saw the fear, hesitation, and struggle in each other's eyes. The 2 of them were silent. They pursed their lips and didn't say a word. Maybe it was because of their loyalty to the demon clan, or maybe it was because of their pride and dignity, the 2 of them didn't want to speak. Ji Tianqing didn't waste any time. He flicked his fingers and sent out 2 golden sword lights, which cut off the left feet of the 2 of them. Immediately, blood splattered. The 2 of them were in so much pain that they broke out in cold sweat and trembled. The purple-haired old man looked at Ji Tianqing. He saw that Ji Tianqing's expression was cold and indifferent, as if he was used to torture and killing. The purple-haired old man felt a chill all over his body and became more and more frightened. His lips trembled a few times, and he finally spoke. I am Priest Yun of the Black Water Tribe. I was ordered to come to the White Mountain City to cooperate with the City Lord's mansion to stop you." Ji Tianqing nodded slightly and looked at the armored man indifferently. The armored man's body suddenly trembled. In fear, he said in a low voice, "I am Mo Cheng, the guard commander of the City Lord's mansion." Ji Tianqing nodded with satisfaction and said coldly, "Tell me the truth. What is the Demon King's order? Who is in charge of the White Mountain City? You must tell me everything you know, or else." He didn't need to say the rest. Priest Yun and Mo Cheng understood. The 2 of them looked at each other again, hesitating and struggling. They didn't want to tell the truth. Ji Tianqing glanced at the 2 of them and sent out 2 more sword lights, cutting off their right feet as well. Mo Cheng endured the severe pain and clenched his teeth. He would rather die than tell the truth. Priest Yun was full of fear. He hurriedly replied, "The Demon King issued an order to gather all the Tianyuan realm powerhouses in the tribes to search for you. Once they find you, they will report to me immediately. The news came out 2 days ago, and it has spread all over the northern desert. Besides, the Demon King also sent 3 demon commanders and a large number of elite powerhouses to the southern border. They set up a trap there, waiting for you to die. The Demon King ordered that you can't go back to the Central Plains alive. Ji Tianqing frowned and said to Priest Yun in a deep voice, "Continue." Priest Yun hurriedly nodded. He endured the pain and humiliation and continued to tell the news he knew. As for Mo Cheng, the guard commander, he remained silent and did not say a word. Chapter 1082. Mo Cheng thought that he was discreet enough that Ji Tianqing would not be able to detect him. However, when he injected demonic power into the black arrow and was about to release it, Ji Tianqing suddenly turned to look at him. Swoosh! Without further ado, Ji Tianqing waved his hand and released a cold sword radiance, which instantly cut off Mo Cheng's neck. Mo Cheng's head immediately rolled on the snow, and dark purple demonic blood spurted out from his neck, dyeing the snow red. Mo Cheng died on the spot, and the arrow in his hand also dimmed and lost its power. Ji Tianqing killed Mo Cheng with a snap of his fingers, but his expression and eyes were calm as if nothing had happened. Priest Yun witnessed the whole process from a close distance, and his heart was filled with fear. He no longer dared to hide anything and told them everything he knew. Now, the entire northern desert knows that a human youth named Ji Tianqing pretended to be a member of our tribe and became the Saintess's personal guard. The Demon King ordered us to stop you at all costs and save the Saintess. All the Divine Prime experts from various tribes and cities have been mobilized, and many soul refinement experts are also heading south. White Mountain City is the only way back to middle ground. A large array has been set up in the city, and there are dozens of Divine Prime experts on standby. In addition, there are 2 demon commanders under the Ghost King, who are guarding White Mountain City. Hearing this, Ji Tianqing frowned, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. He had been in the northern desert for more than 2 months, and he knew the situation of the northern desert and the demon race very well. Of course, he had heard of the Ghost King. It was said that the Ghost King used to be a demon commander under the ancient demon emperor. His strength and status were higher than the demon commander Ming Ye's. He had outstanding military achievements, and his methods were extremely ruthless and cruel. He had made great contributions to the demon race. However, after the ancient demon emperor was sealed, the demon race gradually broke apart and fought for power. 600 years ago, the Ghost Emperor fell out with Demon General Dark Knight and the others. He left the Heavenly Devil Palace and roped in many experts and tribes, establishing himself as the Ghost Emperor. Although the Ghost Emperor had painstakingly operated in the northern desert for 600 years, he had subdued countless scattered small and medium-sized tribes, and his forces had developed rapidly. However, the Heavenly Devil Palace was the sacred ground in the hearts of the devil race. Most of the devil race revered the ancestor devil god and the ancient devil emperor. The Ghost Emperor's power was still incomparable to the ancient demon emperors. In the past 2 years, after the ancient demon emperor broke the seal and returned to the northern desert, he gained the support of the entire northern desert. The Ghost Emperor used to be a general under the ancient demon emperor. Now, he had to follow the ancient demon emperor's orders and lend a helping hand at the critical moment. Ji Tianqing understood this point and secretly thought to himself that if he wanted to completely eradicate the demon race in the future, not only would he have to get rid of the ancient demon emperor, but he would also have to destroy the Ghost Emperor's forces. After a while, when Priest Yun finished telling him all the information he knew, Ji Tianqing looked at him expressionlessly and said in a low voice, "Seeing that you know what's good for you, I'll give you a dignified death and leave your corpse intact. Kill yourself." Hearing this, Priest Yun's body trembled. He widened his eyes in anger and shouted, "Ji Tianqing! You bastard, you didn't keep your word. I've already told you all the information, but you still want to kill me." Ji Tianqing looked at him indifferently and said in a cold voice, "I only said that if you know what's good for you, you still have a chance to live. I didn't say that I would definitely spare you." He hated the demon race to the core and would never have the slightest bit of mercy. Priest Yun was furious and desperate. He glared at him with bloodshot eyes. After a moment of silence, he actually wanted to counterattack and self-detonate before death. He used the demon race's secret technique and burned his flesh and soul, accumulating an extremely violent power in his body. He did not hope to severely injure Ji Tianqing. He only hoped to explode with an earth-shattering sound and alarm the two demon commanders in White Mountain City. However, he underestimated Ji Tianqing's methods and strength. Before he could self-detonate, Ji Tianqing waved his hand and shot out a sword light, which pierced through his head. Then, Ji Tianqing put his and Mo Cheng's corpses into the soul-reaping bell. There were a total of 8 demon race experts' corpses in the soul-reaping bell. He activated the soul-reaping bell's array and quickly refined the 8 corpses. The majestic power refined from the 8 corpses was all absorbed by the soul-reaping bell. The soul-reaping bell was an evil dharma treasure that could devour a cultivator's soul to strengthen its power. Ji Tianqing used to think that this method was too insidious, so he did not use it to nourish the soul-reaping bell. But it was different now. He did not feel guilty about using the corpses of demon race experts to nourish the soul-reaping bell. Before long, he removed the array on the snowy ground and quietly left the snow mountain. He did not enter White Mountain City, nor did he fly south. Instead, he changed his direction and flew southwest. As he flew, he communicated with buried heaven through God's soul voice transmission. Burial of heaven, the facts prove that your guess was right. The demon emperor has indeed mobilized countless experts and set up an ambush at the border. In addition to the demon commanders under the demon emperor, the ghost emperor has also sent experts to help him. I can't fly south now, nor can I cross the border to return to the Central Plains. I can only take a detour to the western wilderness and return to the Central Plains from there. The burial of heaven responded and said in a low voice, "That's good. As long as you don't expose your whereabouts, the demon emperor won't know that you took a detour to the western wilderness. No matter how powerful the demon race is, they can only guard the border between the northern desert and the Central Plains. They can't guard the border of the western wilderness." Ji Tianqing nodded and did not say anything more. He flew silently and hurried on his way. In order not to expose his whereabouts, he slowed down his flying speed and flew through the clouds in the high sky, heading toward the border of the western wilderness. Except for the experts of the spirit refining realm, no one could discover his whereabouts. In the following half a month, he was indeed unimpeded. He did not encounter any obstruction or encirclement from the demon race experts. The situation was just as he expected. The experts of the demon race all thought that he had fled to the southern border, so they all rushed there. No one noticed the border of the western wilderness. No one thought that he would take a detour. Ji Tianqing flew continuously for 18 days and finally arrived at the border of the western wilderness. The border between the northern desert and the western wilderness was not like the central area of the northern desert, which was full of snowy mountains and ice fields. There were mountains and earth here, and even winding rivers. However, the mountains were all dark brown and barren. There was no greenery on the earth. In the evening, Ji Tianqing arrived at the border area covered in dust. Although he was physically and mentally exhausted, and his face was full of weariness, when he saw the undulating mountain range in front of him, a gratified smile appeared on his face. The endless barren mountain range was the border between the northern desert and the western wilderness. Chapter 1083. Although Ji Tianqing had arrived at the border of the western wasteland, he was finally relieved. But he was very clear that in recent years, the demon race had frequently invaded the western wasteland, wantonly slaughtering the demon race people in the western wasteland. On the border between the western wasteland and the northern desert, the flames of war had never stopped. Even if he was about to enter the western wasteland, he could not let down his guard. The border area must be guarded by the demon race army and powerhouses. He could not expose his whereabouts. He slowed down his flying speed, hid his mana, and quietly flew to the border mountain range. That mountain range was hundreds of thousands of miles long. There were countless demon caves and many large formations. When Ji Tianqing flew over the mountain range, he saw that there were many demon race soldiers hidden in the mountain range below, quietly moving through the mountain range. Squads after squads of demon soldiers were patrolling the area vigilantly. Inside the mountain range and deep underground, there were many demon caves that extended in all directions, faintly emitting powerful demon race auras. Without a doubt, there must be tens of thousands of demon race soldiers hidden in the underground demon caves. Soon, he flew over dozens of miles and arrived at the other side of the mountain range. In this mountain range, there were many houses and buildings, and also countless powerful formations. Ji Tianqing could tell at a glance that those houses and buildings were built in the style of the demon race. Moreover, there were a large number of birds and winged men in the sky, circling and flying, monitoring the surroundings. In the mountain range, there were several military camps hidden in the belly of the mountain, where tens of thousands of demon race soldiers were stationed. Fortunately, the border today was still calm and stable. There was no war between the two races. Ji Tianqing quickly crossed the border mountain range, and entered the western wasteland. As he went deeper and deeper into the western wasteland, the scenery in front of him gradually changed. On the vast land, green vegetation began to appear. There were soft grasslands and sparse woods. In the woods of some mountain peaks, there were all kinds of strange flowers and plants. There were butterflies and birds shuttling through the woods. Ji Tianqing felt as if he had walked out of the world of ice and snow, and returned to the spring of March. His mood was very carefree. A day passed quickly. He left the border area, entered the western wasteland territory, and began to see many demon race villages and cities. Of course, there were many demon race tribes in the mountains. Now that he was here, he no longer needed to hide his identity. After all, the demon race and the human race were allies, and there was no enmity between them. When Ji Tianqing passed by a huge city with a radius of 100 miles, he stopped flying and landed in the city. He stayed in the city for a day. While resting for a while, he also spent some spirit stones to get a map of the western wasteland. After carefully checking the map, he realized that the city he was in was the largest ancient city at the border. If he wanted to return to the central plains from the ancient city, he would have to head southeast. It would take him about 10 days to reach the border between the West Wilderness and the Central Plains. That was the border between the human race and the demon race. As long as they crossed the border, they would be able to return to the Central Plains. After confirming the route, Ji Tianqing did not stay any longer. He took advantage of the night to leave the ancient city and flew towards the human border. Now that I've left the northern desert, the Demon King and the Heaven Barbarian Demon Commander wouldn't expect me to be in the western wilderness, right? In 10 days at most, I will be able to return to the central province. At that time, I will completely solve the demonization problem for Yao Yao. While Ji Tianqing was flying, he was still calculating in his heart. Previously, he had checked on Yun Yao's condition. Yun Yao had recuperated in the sword world for almost a month. Her mental state had already recovered, and the injuries on her soul were almost healed. However, she was still cultivating in seclusion in peaceful Earth City. She was trying her best to suppress the demon blood and demon power in her body and slow down the demonization process. Ji Tianqing had consulted the burial of heaven before. It was not possible to solve Yun Yao's demon blood and body in 1 or 2 days. Not only did he have to help Yun Yao get rid of the demon blood and change the blood in her body, but he also had to remove the demon power in her body and transform her meridians. This process was very complicated and would take at least 2 months. Moreover, his vitality would be greatly damaged and he would be in a weakened state for a long time. Ji Tianqing considered these reasons and did not dare to stop to help Yun Yao get rid of the demon blood. He could only let her endure for a while and return to the Central Plains. Unknowingly, 8 days had passed. Ji Tianqing flew for almost 1,000,000 miles and was getting closer and closer to the border of the human race. He was still 200,000 miles away from the border of the human race. He could reach it in 2 days at most. On this night, he was flying above a vast primitive forest. This forest was hundreds of miles wide. Perhaps no one had set foot in it for thousands of years. It still maintained its primitive appearance. Countless powerful demon beasts were active in the forest at night. Waves of roars could be heard constantly. Ji Tianqing flew across the sky. He was still thinking to himself that after returning to the central continent, there were too many things to do. He needed to deal with them one by one. Suddenly, a black shadow flashed across the night sky not far away. It flew over as fast as lightning. Swoosh! The black shadow almost merged with the night sky. It was difficult to see it with the naked eye. Moreover, the black shadow was extremely fast. Its aura was also very hidden. It was impossible to guard against. In just 2 breaths, the black shadow caught up with Ji Tianqing. It was only 1,000 meters away from him. The black shadow released 12 black light blades without hesitation. They exploded with destructive power and attacked Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing was thinking about his next plan. He was a little distracted. Moreover, this was the hinterland of the western wilderness. It was almost impossible for demons to appear here. He was not prepared for a sudden attack. When he sensed the black light blades coming, it was already too late to dodge. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. 12 black light blades more than 30 meters long came from all directions. They enveloped his body and made it impossible for him to dodge. Before the light blade had even hit him, the incomparably sharp and fierce energy had already cut his robe, causing him to be unable to breathe. At this critical moment, he spread out his golden wings without hesitation to protect himself. Golden rock wings. In the next moment, 12 incomparably sharp black light blades struck the golden wings with a loud bang. Bang 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 bang. A deafening explosion broke the silence of the night and spread over a radius of 100 miles. The golden rock's wings blocked the attack of the black light blade, shattering it into pieces. However, the golden light of the wings flashed wildly. It consumed a lot of energy and immediately became dim. Ji Tianqing was also sent flying by the terrifying power. He tumbled in the sky for more than 10 miles before he crashed into the forest below. He smashed a huge crater in the dense forest, causing mud and wood chips to fly all over the sky. As soon as he got up from the hole, the black shadow quickly attacked again. It waved its fists and smashed out 2 huge fist shadows. It was only now that Ji Tianqing used his spiritual energy to see that the black figure was actually a burly man who was more than 3 meters tall and was covered in black armor. Chapter 1084. The burly man in black armor was wrapped in a cloud of black mist, exuding a cold aura of death. He stood in the night sky 1,000 meters in front of Ji Tianqing, revealing only a pair of scarlet eyes that surged with a cold light. His body, limbs, and head were all wrapped tightly in black armor, not revealing a bit of skin or hair. Ji Tianqing knew that this person was the most mysterious and most powerful of the 6 demon marshals, the leader of the demon marshals, Demon Marshal Dark Knight. It was said that other than the ancient demon emperor, no one had seen his true face. Ji Tianqing had investigated the information of the 6 demon marshals before, and he had also heard of the legends of Demon Marshal Dark Knight. Therefore, when he saw Demon Marshal Dark Knight appear, he immediately saw through his identity. After all, Demon Marshal Dark Knight was wrapped in a 9 underworld armor, revealing only a pair of blood-red eyes. His appearance was very obvious. However, Ji Tianqing did not expect that Demon Marshal Dark Knight would suddenly appear when he was about to return to the Central Plains. In his opinion, the 3 demon marshals, Dark Knight, Duanhuan, and Sky Barbarian, should be lying in ambush at the border between the Northern Desert and the Central Plains. Demon Marshal Dark Knight, how did you find my tracks and chase me here? Ji Tianqing looked at him vigilantly, his heart full of vigilance. Demon Martial Dark Knight secretly released his soul power, sealing the night sky within a radius of 10 miles, quietly suppressing Ji Tianqing. He probably expected that Ji Tianqing had no way to escape and would definitely die tonight, so he was not in a hurry to make a move. He looked coldly at Ji Tianqing and said in a deep voice, "How can you imagine Ben Shuai's methods?" Previously, Ben Shuai did think that you escaped to the south, so he went to the southern border to meet up with the other demon marshals to intercept you. However, you escaped to the border of the western wilderness, and the netherworld bees that Ben Shuai arranged at the border found your tracks and aura. Only then did Ben Shuai know that you actually turned around and escaped from the western wilderness. Demon General Dark Knight's voice was very peculiar. It was like the sound of metal colliding. It did not contain any emotion, and it was impossible to distinguish whether it was a man or a woman. When Ji Tianqing heard his words, he was suddenly enlightened. So that's how it is. I have long heard that demonic martial Dark Knight has raised billions of underworld bees and spread them to every corner of the Tian Xian land to collect information about various clans and powerhouses. Nothing that happens on the continent can escape your senses and probing. I didn't expect that even though I was extremely careful, I still couldn't hide it from you. He said this with a calm expression, but his mood was very heavy. He was considering how to escape. Demon Commander Dark Knight seemed to have seen through his thoughts, and said in a low and cold tone, "With your insignificant strength, no matter how careful you are, it will be difficult for you to escape from Ben Shuai's palm. Don't even think about running away. Since this commander has already found you, you will definitely die tonight. Ben Shuai will give you two choices. Either you surrender now, and Ben Shuai will not kill you for the time being, and will take you back to the sacred mountain to see His Majesty the Demon Emperor. Or you resist stubbornly, and Ben Shuai will kill you on the spot, and take your soul back to report on the completion of the mission." Ji Tianqing grinned and said with a cold smile, "It seems that you don't understand me at all. The word surrender does not exist in my dictionary, Ji Tianqing. No matter how strong you are, I will fight to the death." When his voice fell, he suddenly took out the broken sword, and slashed at Demon General Dark Knight with all his strength. Divine sword draw, splitting mountains and rivers, sword draw style. The broken sword slashed at Demon General Dark Knight from bottom to top, and slashed out 100-meter-long sword light, which instantly tore apart the night sky. The sword light was dazzling, and it illuminated the area within a radius of 10 miles. The sword chi was incomparably sharp. Not only did it cut apart the night sky, it also broke the soul power secretly released by Demon General Dark Knight. In just an instant, the sword light arrived in front of Demon General Dark Knight and was about to hit him. However, Demon General Dark Knight's strength was far beyond Ji Tianqing's imagination, reaching an inconceivable level. Whoosh! When the sword light arrived, Demon General Dark Knight was still as calm as a mountain and as cold as ice. He actually did not dodge. He raised his palms and slapped out two giant black blades of light to meet the sword light head-on. Kaboom! Amidst the deafening collision, the giant black blades of light and the dazzling sword light collapsed at the same time, turning into fragments that splashed in all directions. The violent force actually sent Ji Tianqing flying 1,000 meters away, and he gasped for breath with a pale face. Demon General Dark Knight stood motionless in the night sky, as if nothing had happened. After Ji Tianqing stabilized himself, he looked at Demon General Dark Knight with eyes full of shock, and his heart was full of fear. Damn it! I used all my strength to unleash my strongest trump card, but it was easily neutralized by him. What level has his strength reached? 7th layer of the soul refining realm? Or the 8th? He was only at the first level of the soul refinement realm. Even if he used his strongest trump card, he could only match an expert at the 5th level of the soul refinement realm. Demon General Dark Knight's strength was mysterious and powerful, causing him to feel a strong sense of powerlessness in his heart. At this time, a murderous intent flashed in Demon General Dark Knight's eyes, and he shouted angrily, "Ji Tianqing, if you want to die, Ben Shui will fulfill your wish." As he spoke, he raised his palms again and slashed out two giant black blades of light. The 200-meter-long black blades of light carried an icy aura of death, as if they were the scythes of the Grim Reaper. Ji Tianqing's divine soul aura was locked by the blade of light. He only felt his whole body turn cold, and a strong sense of fear gushed out from his divine soul. He turned around and fled without hesitation, bursting out with his strongest strength and fastest speed to escape into the distance. However, just as he turned around and flew 1,000 meters away, the two black blades of light slashed at his head. At this critical moment, he had no time to think. He immediately unfolded his golden wings to protect himself. Bam bam! The two destructive black blades of light fiercely struck him, causing two loud and muffled sounds to erupt. He was immediately sent flying 12 miles away by the blade of light, tumbling into the vast forest. With a boom, 1,000-meter-wide crater was smashed into the dense forest, causing mud to splatter everywhere. Countless cracks spread around the crater, and everything within a radius of dozens of miles was trembling. Ji Tianqing lay at the bottom of the crater, his hair disheveled. Half of his body was covered in mud. His face was ghastly pale, and blood was constantly flowing out from the corner of his mouth. His internal organs had already been injured. The wings formed by Kenshin's battle robe had helped him block the fatal killing blow, but they had also exhausted their power. They became dim and retracted back into his body. This Kenshin's battle robe had helped him block countless fatal killing blows. Although the power of Kenshin's battle robe would be exhausted every time and retract back into his body, the battle robe would never be damaged, nor would it leave any marks. After 3 to 5 days, the battle robe's power would automatically recover, allowing him to use it again. Ji Tianqing had lost the protection of Kenshin's battle robe, and was even more unable to fight Demon Commander Dark Knight. Seeing Demon Commander Dark Knight fly across the sky and charge over again, he did not hesitate to burrow into the ground and use the earth escape technique to escape with all his might. With his current strength, he could only be crushed by Demon Commander Dark Knight. He had no right to counterattack. Chapter 1085. Ji Tianqing quickly shuttled through the ground, desperately escaping to the border of the central province. Demon Commander Dark Knight also chased him underground, chasing him as fast as lightning. The distance between the two sides was constantly closing, and Ji Tianqing's situation was also becoming more and more dangerous. Although he had already suffered internal injuries, and his internal organs had been shaken out of place, he did not dare to relax. However, he did not dare to relax in the slightest, nor did he have the time to suppress his injuries. He could only try his best to escape. An hour later, Demon Commander Dark Knight caught up to him, and was only 1,000 meters away. Demon Commander Dark Knight indeed took action, releasing a vast and majestic power, controlling the earth within a radius of 3,000 meters to ruthlessly suppress Ji Tianqing. Swoosh! Immediately, the earth within 3,000 meters collapsed and shattered. The endless earth and rocks condensed into a huge boulder with a radius of 100 meters, wrapping Ji Tianqing inside. Under Demon Commander Dark Knight's control, the huge boulder drilled out of the ground and flew into the sky. Ji Tianqing sensed that something was wrong, and immediately burst out with all his strength, ruthlessly shattering the huge boulder. Bang! With a dull sound, the huge boulder exploded from the inside, collapsing into millions of pieces that shot out in all directions. He had just escaped the bindings of the huge boulder, and unhesitatingly flew through the night sky, fleeing into the distance. However, Demon Commander Dark Knight was already prepared. When he shattered the huge boulder, he ruthlessly slapped out a huge palm condensed from the black light of death. Bang! Ji Tianqing was sent flying by the huge palm of black light on the spot, and his whole body was wrapped in a layer of black chi of death. He only felt that his body was stiff, and his flesh and bones were about to be frozen stiff. He was unable to move at all. Moreover, the black chi of death had invaded his body, crazily eroding his flesh and bones, and devouring his vitality. In just a breath's time, his skin had turned black, and his eyes had become dim and lifeless. Fortunately, the heaven-mending orb in his mind released a dense white light in time, which flowed through his limbs and bones, warming his blood vessels and bones. When he flew 10 miles away, the black chi of death that had invaded his body was completely dispelled by the mysterious white light. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of black blood. Enduring his injuries, he hurriedly took out his soul magic sword, and stepped on it to fly forward. Swish! The golden sword emitted a dazzling golden light, like a meteor streaking across the night sky, and soon flew far away. Demon General Dark Knight was not on guard against such a consummate skill. His speed actually increased several times, and in the blink of an eye, he flew 20 miles away. Ji Tianqing, you're doomed. You can't escape this calamity. Demon General Dark Knight's voice was ice-cold as he shouted. Immediately, he burst out with his full power and turned into a hidden black light, chasing after Ji Tianqing. The two parties chased each other in the night sky, and the distance between them was getting closer and closer. Of course, as time passed, the two of them got closer and closer to the border of the Central Plains. 6 hours later, Demon Commander Dark Knight once again caught up with Ji Tianqing. He used his ultimate killer move and attacked Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing did his best to resist, but he was still unable to block Demon Marshal Dark Knight's killing move. He was once again heavily injured and vomited blood, smashing into a mountain peak. The 1,000-tall mountain collapsed on the spot, turning into a pile of ruins. Seeing that he was heavily injured and lying in the ruins, Demon General Dark Knight used his capturing technique to capture him and bring him back to the northern desert. At the critical moment, Ji Tianqing opened the third eye on his forehead and released a destructive thunderbolt. With a loud rumble, the lightning beam hit Demon Commander Dark Knight and sent him flying. Unfortunately, the 9 underworld armor Demon General Dark Knight was wearing blocked most of the power. Even if he was blasted into the ground by the thunderbolt, he was not injured at all. Ji Tianqing did not expect the thunderbolt spirit eyes to injure Demon General Dark Knight. He only hoped that it could buy him some time and give him a chance to escape. Taking advantage of the time when Demon General Dark Knight was sent flying, he turned around and fled without hesitation. He was already heavily injured and had consumed a lot of his magic power, so he entered the sword world and used the Burial of Heaven to drive the broken sword to escape. Swish! The half-meter-long black broken sword burst out with an unimaginable speed and instantly cut through the night sky, leaving Demon General Dark Knight far behind. Demon General Dark Knight was still unwilling to give up. After crawling up from the ruins, he shouted angrily and continued to chase. Unknowingly, a night passed. After dawn, Demon General Dark Knight was still crazily chasing after the broken sword. The two were still 30 miles apart. The Burial of Heaven's power was indeed vigorous. The flying speed of the broken sword was comparable to Demon General Dark Knight. In a short time, Demon General Dark Knight could not catch up at all. Ji Tianqing used his power to heal his injuries in the sword world. With the help of elixirs and his own recovery ability, he temporarily suppressed his injuries and recovered some of his vitality. While healing, he silently calculated in his heart, with the speed of the Burial of Heaven, Demon General Dark Knight can't catch up at all in 4 to 5 hours. However, the Burial of Heaven will also consume a lot of energy to fly with the broken sword. At most, it can last for a few more hours before its speed will decrease. At that time, it will be caught. Fortunately, I'm only 12 hours away from the border of the Central Plains. The border between the Western Wilderness and the Central Plains is guarded by divine generals under the Imperial Court, as well as an elite army of 300,000 stationed there. As long as I escape to the border, I'll be safe. No matter how strong Demon General Dark Knight is, he won't dare to attack the border defense line. Ji Tianqing knew that the divine general guarding the border between the western wilderness and the central plains was one of the four great divine generals, the illustrious divine general of the western wilderness, Yu Tianhong. This person's strength and reputation were a bit stronger than divine general Xiao Han. He was also a spirit refinement expert who had been famous for 200 to 300 years. A few months ago, when Ji Tianqing was in the Eastern Sea, he had met divine general Xiao Han. In his impression, divine general Dong Lin was a just and strict person, extremely dignified and intelligent. He was worthy of admiration and friendship. Since the divine general of the western wilderness was more famous than divine general Dong Lin, he must be more loyal to the imperial court and more upright. Thinking of this, Ji Tianqing hurriedly used his divine sense to send a message to Burial of Heaven, hold on for another 12 hours. As long as we escape to the border between the western wilderness and the central plains, we'll be able to escape safely. Divine General Yu Tianhong is guarding the border with an army of 300,000 under his command. He has built countless fortifications. No matter how strong Demon General Dark Knight is, he won't dare to attack the border alone. He'll definitely retreat. Burial of Heaven pondered for a moment, then said in a low voice, "No problem, I'll do my best to hold on until we reach the border." Ji Tianqing was finally relieved. He continued to circulate his energy to recover his injuries and magic power. Time passed quickly. The broken sword was still flying high in the sky, and Demon General Dark Knight was still in hot pursuit. Very quickly, 12 hours had passed. It was already evening, and the sun was setting in the west. Burial of Heaven's energy was rapidly depleted, and he was getting weaker and weaker. The broken sword was also getting slower and slower. However, Demon General Dark Knight was still full of energy, and his speed did not decrease at all. He was constantly closing the distance. Fortunately, 200 miles ahead, under the setting sun at the end of the horizon, a huge and majestic mountain range that was 10,000 meters tall appeared. The Manggu mountain range that stretched for millions of miles was the border between the western wilderness and the central plains. Chapter 1086. The Manggu mountain range had existed since the ancient times 10,000 years ago. It was said that the gods of the ancient times had once fought a great battle here. Today, there were still many amazing sights left in this ancient mountain range that stretched for millions of miles. There were giant footprints that were 10 miles long, huge sinkholes that were 100 miles wide, and several huge gullies that were hundreds of miles long. There were even unfathomable black holes that led to the depths of the earth. These miracles and sights that were hard to understand were all believed to be the traces left behind by the ancient gods' war. In the lofty and steep mountain range, there was a huge citadel called Manggu City. The citadel was guarded by the divine generals of the western wilderness and 100,000 soldiers. The other 200,000 soldiers were divided into thousands of teams and scattered in the mountain range that stretched for 100,000 miles. This 100,000 miles long border defense line was gradually built and perfected by the human imperial court and hundreds of thousands of soldiers after thousands of years of hard work. 1,000 years ago, the demon army broke through the western wilderness and tried to kill their way into the central plains. It was this defense line that stopped the demon army's advance. Because of this, Ji Tianqing was full of confidence in this defense line. He was sure that Demon Commander Dark Knight would not dare to break through the defense line, let alone chase into Manggu City. Whoosh! The broken sword cut through the sky like a stream of light. Bathed in the golden sunset, it rushed toward the impregnable pass in the Manggu mountain range. The impregnable city was located halfway up the mountain. To the west was a 3,000-meter-high cliff, and to the east was a huge canyon. After passing through the canyon, they would enter the central plains. Although they were still dozens of miles away, Ji Tianqing could already see countless flags fluttering in the dark brown Manggu City. A large number of soldiers in fine iron armor were moving in groups or stationed in various sentry posts. 50 miles, 40 miles, 30 miles, 20 miles, the broken sword was getting closer and closer to Mangu City, and the scenery became clearer. Ji Tianqing could even feel a vigorous and iron-blooded aura coming toward him. After 10 breaths, the broken sword finally flew to the huge gate of Mangu City. However, the black gate that was 100 meters tall was tightly shut, and hundreds of elite soldiers were stationed on the city wall. On the city wall, there was a tower every 10 meters. There were huge ballistas, catapults, and sword formations. The defense was very tight. Moreover, the entire Mang city was protected by a soul-grade array. Even a powerhouse like Demon Commander Dark Knight would find it difficult to break the array's defense in a short time. The broken sword floated in front of the city gate, and Ji Tianqing flew out. Holding the broken sword in his hand, he stood in the air and looked at the guards above the city gate. He shouted, "I am Ji Tianqing, the domain lord of the Tianshan region. I am being chased by the demon commander. Open the city gate." His tone was dignified and austere. With just a few words, he made clear his identity and situation. However, the numerous guards on the city wall all stared at him with complicated gazes. They were all stunned on the spot, and no one dared to open the city gate. However, a few guards quickly left the city wall and returned to the city to report the news. Ji Tianqing shouted anxiously. He even took out the seal of mountains and rivers to prove his identity as the domain lord of the Tianshan region. However, the guards on the city wall were whispering to each other. They were shocked, confused, doubtful, and surprised. At this moment, Demon Commander Dark Knight caught up. Swoosh! He rushed out of the city gate without any scruples and stood 1,000 meters away from Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing, you are too naive. Do you think you can get away smoothly by escaping to the border? Even if you escape back to the central province, Ben Shui can still catch you and bring you and the Saintess back to the northern desert, let alone a border checkpoint. Demon Commander Dark Knight shouted coldly with the sound of metal clashing. His body released a black fog of demon chi that soared into the sky, exuding a bone-chilling cold of death. Suddenly, the sky outside the city gate was covered by the black fog of demon chi, and it became gloomy and terrifying. When the hundreds of guards on the city wall saw Demon Commander Dark Knight appear, they were immediately filled with horror and shouted. Heavens! It's the Demon Clan! The Demon Clan is invading! Quickly report to the Divine General, the Demon Clan's experts are outside the city. Everyone be careful, don't be corroded by the demon chi. Everyone be on guard, quickly light the beacon and activate the defense. Instantly, the countless guards were thrown into chaos. They hurriedly ran away, letting out anxious and frightened shouts. Fortunately, the city wall was protected by the defensive array. Otherwise, these guards would have been scared out of their wits by Demon Commander Dark Knight and fled in panic. Demon Commander Dark Knight ignored the guards on the city wall and stared at Ji Tianqing. His eyes were filled with a bloodthirsty and cruel cold light. Ji Tianqing, die! He shouted angrily and waved his palms, shooting out dozens of black lights of death toward Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing's expression changed drastically as he quickly dodged. He waved his broken sword and slashed out a sky full of sword lights to block the deadly black light. The cold sword shadow and the black lights of death collided fiercely, and muffled ping 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 sounds kept coming out. Suddenly, the sky within a radius of 10 miles was filled with surging demon chi, and strong winds blew in all directions. Ji Tianqing resisted more than 30 black lights of death, but he was still hit by 4 black light blades. The white robe he wore was cut into pieces, and there were several deep bloody wounds on his chest and back. Dark red blood seeped out. Not only that, but he was also sent flying, and fiercely smashed into the huge city gate with a muffled ping sound. The 100-meter-high city gate trembled, and the city wall also shook violently, making the guards on the city wall panic and fear. Ji Tianqing fell under the city gate and leaned against it, covered in blood. He covered his chest with his left hand and panted violently. His hair was disheveled, his clothes were ragged, and his face was covered in blood. After a few violent coughs, blood gushed out of his mouth and nose. Demon General Ming Yi stood in the sky, wrapped in black fog. He looked at him coldly and shouted, "Ji Tianqing, it's all over." When his voice fell, he waved his palms again and shot out two black lights of death toward Ji Tianqing. He had already made up his mind to destroy Ji Tianqing's body on the spot. Then, he would capture Ji Tianqing's soul and bring it back to the northern desert to report to the Demon Emperor. At the critical moment, Ji Tianqing had no choice but to use the soul-reaping bell to protect himself. The black lights of death hit the soul-reaping bell fiercely, and then hit the city gate with a boom. Suddenly, the defensive formation on the city gate was activated, and a huge yellow light barrier lit up. The light barrier trembled violently under the attack of the black lights of death, and the city gate also shook violently. The soul-reaping bell was also sent flying. With a boom, it smashed into the cliff wall not far away, creating a huge hole and countless cracks. Demon General Ming Yi was about to continue attacking, but at this time, the guards on the city wall suddenly burst into a burst of excited cheers. "Lord Divine General is here. Great! Lord Divine General's arrival will definitely stop the invasion of the demon race." Accompanied by the cheers of the guards, a dazzling white light flew out from the city and landed on the city wall with a swish. When the white light faded, a tall and sturdy figure appeared in front of everyone. This person was a middle-aged man who seemed to be in his 40s. He wore a golden armor, a dark golden helmet, and a silver cloak embroidered with stars and clouds. His body was tall and straight, and he had a square face that was resolute and dignified. A pair of thick eyebrows and big eyes revealed an aura of iron and blood. Chapter 1087. The Divine General of the West Wilderness stood on the city wall, looking down at the situation with a dignified expression. He saw Demon Commander Dark Knight, who was shrouded in demonic fog and had a cold and powerful aura. He also saw Ji Tianqing, who was covered in blood and in a sorry state. However, he was expressionless and did not speak. He only stared at Ji Tianqing and frowned slightly. A strange look flashed in his eyes. Demon Commander Dark Knight temporarily stopped attacking and stood in the air, staring coldly at the Divine General of the West Wilderness. He was very powerful and was not far from the primordial soul realm. He was strong enough to dominate the world and look down on all heroes. Even if the Divine General of the West Wilderness personally attacked, he would not be a match for him. However, he had to consider that there were 100,000 soldiers stationed in the city, countless elite soldiers and powerful defensive formations. Most importantly, there was a teleportation formation in Mang City that was connected to the human imperial court. If the situation was critical, the imperial tutor and emperor of the human imperial court could come to Mang City through the teleportation formation. Demon Commander Dark Knight stood in the air coldly and indifferently, staring at the Divine General of the West Wilderness's expression. He wanted to know how the Divine General of the West Wilderness would react. At this moment, Ji Tianqing staggered out of the rubble and flew into the sky, covered in blood. He put away the soul-reaping bell and took a few breaths. Then, he looked up at the Divine General of the West Wilderness on the city wall and said solemnly, "Tianshan Region Lord Ji Tianqing greets the Divine General of the West Wilderness." As he spoke, he endured his injuries and bowed to Yu Tianhong. "Sir Divine General, this is Demon Commander Dark Knight under the Demon Emperor. He chased me all the way from the northern desert to here. I'm already seriously injured. Please open the city gate and help me." He explained the cause of the matter to Yu Tianhong and begged him to help him escape. However, before he could finish, he was interrupted by Yu Tianhong. Yu Tianhong looked at him expressionlessly. His eyes were cold as he said indifferently, "You call yourself the Tianshan Region Lord, but who knows you? Who can testify for you?" Demon General Dark Knight was very powerful and was very close to the primordial spirit realm. His whereabouts had always been mysterious, and no one had ever seen his true face. And you claim to be the Heavenly Stellar Region Lord, who was chased by Demon Marshal Dark Knight and fled from the northern desert to here. You can even make up such a ridiculous lie. How could you escape from the northern desert to here with your insignificant strength? I am very suspicious that you are a spy from the demon race, pretending to be one of my people to deceive me into opening the city gates. You want to help the demons break into the city and break through the defense line at the border. You damned demon spy, get the hell away from me, or I'll definitely kill you. Yu Tianhong's voice was cold and imposing. His voice reverberated in front of the city gate, causing the ground to tremble. After hearing his words, the countless guards on the city wall suddenly understood and looked at him with admiration. Yu Tianhong was the spiritual leader of these guards. In everyone's eyes, he was a famous general with unparalleled bravery and wisdom. When Ji Tianqing heard his words, he was stunned on the spot, and his face became very ugly. He never thought that he would finally be able to escape safely after going through so much to escape to the border, and just as he was about to enter Mang City. The divine general of the West Wilderness, Yu Tianhong, who guarded Mang City, had such an attitude and reaction. Ji Tianqing was a little absent-minded. He looked at Yu Tianhong in disbelief and muttered in his heart, "No." Even the divine general of the East Forest, Shao Han, who is far away in the East Sea, has heard of my name and deeds. As a divine general of the West Wilderness, Yu Tianhong must have heard of my name and know my identity. But I have no enmity with him, and we have never met before. Why did he treat me like this, pretending not to know me and not saving me? He immediately realized that there was something wrong with Yu Tianhong's reaction. Not only that, when he was in a daze, Yu Tianhong was looking at him with cold eyes. His mouth curved into a mocking sneer, and his eyes flashed with contempt. Ji Tianqing saw the change in his expression and was even more sure that he did it on purpose. Damn it! Yu Tianhong and Shao Han are both divine generals. One is fair, strict, wise, and righteous, while the other is sinister and despicable, not saving me. Looking at Yu Tianhong's reaction, he seems to hate me and can't wait for me to be killed immediately. Why? When did I offend him? At this time, Demon General Dark Knight sneered. Ha ha ha. Ji Tianqing, you didn't expect this, did you? Even the divine general of the human race who guards the border is not willing to save you. Ben Shui was also very surprised. Aren't you the #1 genius of the human race? Aren't you a genius? How come you are abandoned by the human race when you are about to die? How ironic. The heavens have decided that you are going to die here today. Demon General Dark Knight's voice was very harsh, making Ji Tianqing extremely angry. His eyes were filled with dense killing intent. He glared at Demon General Dark Knight indifferently, then turned to the divine general of the West Wilderness on the city wall and shouted coldly, Yu Tianhong. I will remember today's matter. One day, I will make you regret what you did today. At that time, even if you kneel down and beg me, it will be useless. Ji Tianqing's voice was as cold as ice, filled with deep hatred. He suspected that Yu Tianhong was instructed by someone or colluded with the demon race, which was why he did not save him. However, he hid these words in his heart and would not say it out loud. After all, this was only his guess. Even if he said it out loud, Yu Tianhong would not admit it. Yu Tianhong looked at him with a mocking gaze and sneered contemptuously, You demon spy, are you angry because this general saw through your scheme? Humph. You dare to threaten this general with just a bastard like you? Ha. You'd better think about how to escape first. However, I expect that you will not be able to escape death today, and there will be no future. Ji Tianqing looked at him deeply and did not waste any more words with him. He turned and flew into the distance, desperately escaping. Demon General Dark Knight also laughed sinisterly, his eyes flashing with dense killing intent. He turned into a black shadow and chased after him. The two left the city gate one after the other and flew towards the mountain range in the distance. Yu Tianhong stood on the city wall and looked at Ji Tianqing's figure in the distance. The corners of his mouth hooked up into a sneer of gloating. Humph! Arrogant and ignorant little bastard, this general was worried that he could not find a chance to eliminate you. I didn't expect you to court death and provoke Demon General Dark Knight. It's really heaven's will to make fun of you. You actually fell into this general's hands. This way, it will save you a lot of trouble. You are being chased by Demon General Dark Knight. This time, you will die without a doubt. After that, he turned and left the city wall, flying back into the city. A Sky Origin Stage Deputy General followed him. While flying back to the city, he asked, Lord Divine General, I don't think that person is lying. He is really Ji Tianqing. Moreover, he just took out the Domain Lord's golden seal. Lord Divine General, if we don't save him, if this matter is known by the Imperial Court in the Monarch Mansion, I'm afraid it will be difficult to explain. Yu Tianhong sneered disdainfully, this general guards the border of the Western Wilderness and protects millions of people of my race. How can I open the city gate for him alone? If Demon General Dark Knight kills his way into the city, who can stop him? If the demon army breaks through Mang City and enters the central region, who will be responsible? This high-sounding reason immediately made the deputy general speechless. He fell silent and no longer spoke. Yu Tianhong warned again in a solemn tone, Ji Tianqing is being chased by Demon General Dark Knight. Today, he will die without a doubt. In the future, if the news spreads and the Imperial Court and the Monarch Mansion ask about this matter, you will have to answer like this. Even if the Emperor asks in person, this general will have to explain like this. This general thinks that no matter how much the Emperor values Ji Tianqing, it is impossible for him to ignore right and wrong and vent his anger on this general. Chapter 1088. Ji Tianqing endured his injuries, ignoring his tattered clothes and the bloodstains all over his body. He entered the majestic and boundless Manggu mountain range. Stepping on the soul magic sword, he flew as if his life depended on it. The soul magic sword flickered with a dazzling golden light, enveloping him as it shuttled through the mountains as fast as lightning. Demon General Dark Knight followed closely behind. He turned into a black light of death and flew across the sky, relentlessly chasing after him. With the passage of time, the distance between the two sides was constantly shortened, from 20 miles to about 10 miles. Unknowingly, an hour had passed. The two had already flown for 6,000 miles, far away from Manggu City. Ji Tianqing's strength had been exhausted, and his soul magic sword was extremely weak. The soul magic sword under his feet had also become dim. His flying speed became slower and slower. His vision gradually blurred, and his consciousness became more and more muddled. However, he clenched his teeth and held on. With his tenacious willpower and perseverance, he continued to fly for his life. No. I can't stop, and I can't faint. I've experienced so many dangers, and I've survived countless times. I've clenched my teeth and endured them all. I went deep into the northern desert, infiltrated the demon emperor's lair, and spent so much effort to save Yao Yao. I've already returned to the central continent. How can I fall here? These thoughts constantly flashed through his mind. His heart was filled with anger and unwillingness. However, his injuries were too severe. His magic power had been exhausted, and his soul magic was almost exhausted. He was already on the verge of fainting. He was truly in a desperate situation. No matter how much he tried to hold on, he couldn't hold on anymore. Demon General Dark Knight accelerated and chased after him. He was only 1,000 meters away from him. At the critical moment, the heaven-mending orb in his mind suddenly surged with a mysterious white light and poured into his soul. Suddenly, he was like a person who was about to die of thirst and suddenly drank cool spring water. The power of his spiritual energy was stimulated once more, causing the spiritual energy magic sword to regain its dazzling golden radiance. Its speed also increased abruptly. He rode the soul magic sword and ran as fast as lightning for another 2 hours, flying for more than 10,000 miles. However, the heaven-mending orb no longer released the mysterious white light. His soul magic sword was also completely exhausted. He closed his eyes in a daze. The moment before he fainted, he suddenly realized something. He thought to himself, so that's how it is. The mysterious white light released by the heaven-mending orb stimulated the hidden power in my soul. It can't help me recover my strength quickly, but it can stimulate my potential and overdraw my strength. But now, my potential has been exhausted, yet I still can't break free from Demon Martial Dark Knight. Only death awaits me. Am I really going to die in the Manga Mountains? After this thought flashed through his mind, he closed his eyes. Filled with despair and unwillingness, he completely fell into a coma. The dim soul magic sword flew back into his body with a whoosh and returned to his mind. He fell from the sky, drawing an arc in the air as he smashed into the mountains below. The terrain of this mountain range was precipitous and towering, and it still maintained its original appearance. Obviously, no one had set foot here. The spiritual energy between heaven and earth was very abundant. The mountains were covered by dark green forests, and in the deep valleys, there were countless exotic flowers and herbs. Perhaps, this was where Ji Tianqing was buried. To be able to die in such a peaceful and natural place far away from the world with a spiritual vein was perhaps the last gift from the heavens to him. Whoosh! When Ji Tianqing fell from the sky, the broken sword suddenly appeared and released a mysterious black light. It wrapped around his whole body and carried him forward. 1,000 meters behind, Demon Martial Dark Knight saw this scene and his eyes immediately revealed a sinister smile. Hee hee. You've finally fainted. You damned reptile, it's already a miracle that you can escape here. Now, you're dead for sure. As he sneered, he waved his palms and released a turbulent black light of death. It condensed into 200-meter-long black light blades and fiercely blasted towards Ji Tianqing. The power of the burial of heaven was also very weak. The speed of the broken sword's flight was relatively slow, and it couldn't dodge the 2 black light blades at all. Bang bang! The black light blades slashed the broken sword, and 2 deafening muffled sounds burst out. Immediately, the broken sword was blasted away and fell into the valley below. Its light was extremely dim, like an abandoned broken sword. Ji Tianqing of the broken sword sect blocked the 2 black light blades, but he was almost out of energy. The unconscious Ji Tianqing fell from the sky and smashed into the valley full of flowers and plants with a bang. The loud sound reverberated fiercely in the mountains and only dissipated after a long time. The broken sword was inserted into a large black rock in the valley, and it was still trembling and buzzing. Ji Tianqing smashed the moist and fertile ground of the valley, creating a huge pit with a radius of 30 meters. Mud, flowers, and wood splashed all over the sky. He lay unconscious at the bottom of the pit, half of his body buried by the dark brown mud. He lay there motionlessly. It was all over. Ji Tianqing and the broken sword had lost the power to resist. What awaited them was only to be captured and brought back to the Demon King in the northern desert. Swoosh! Demon Martial Dark Knight descended from the sky and landed in the valley full of flowers and plants. He stood at the edge of the huge pit and looked down at Ji Tianqing in the deep pit. A cold smile flashed through his scarlet eyes. It's finally over. Benshui chased you all the way here from the northern desert in vain. I finally caught you. You're only at the first layer of the soul refining realm, but you were able to create such a big storm and escape from Benshui for 1,000,000 miles. It's really incredible. No wonder His Majesty the Demon King views you as a great enemy and swears to kill you and take your bloodline. Now, your life, Kenshin bloodline, the soul of the divine sword, and the saintess have all fallen into Benshuai's hands. His Majesty the Demon King's long-cherished wish has finally been fulfilled. Demon Marshal Dark Knight muttered a few words to himself. Only then did he reach out his palms in satisfaction, grabbing at Ji Tianqing in the broken sword not far away. However, at this moment, a great change occurred in the depths of the valley. Swoosh! In the depths of the valley full of flowers and plants, a dazzling green light suddenly lit up. The rich dark green brilliance quickly expanded and turned into a huge curtain of light that covered half of the valley. Demon Marshal Dark Knight's body suddenly froze. He frowned and looked into the depths of the valley, his eyes coldly sizing up the dark green curtain of light. At this moment, a crack suddenly appeared in the mysterious dark green curtain of light. It opened to both sides and formed a large door. Swoosh! A green figure passed through the door of light and stepped into the valley. Demon Marshal Dark Knight could clearly see that behind the door of light was a vast world with mountains and rivers. He immediately understood that the green curtain of light was a boundary, and the door of light was connected to another alternate space. As for the green figure, it was a human old man with a head full of white hair. He wore a long green robe and black cloth shoes. Chapter 1089. The old man seemed to have reached the age of 80, appearing senile and doddering. However, his body was still tall and straight, his spirit hale and hearty. His skin and complexion were as translucent as jade, as if he had regained his youth. His chiseled face was full of vicissitudes and vicissitudes of life. His clear and bright eyes contained the wisdom of seeing through the mysteries of heaven and earth. Although he was already old, it could still be seen that he must have been a handsome martial genius when he was young. He walked with steady steps on the soft grass. His azure robe was spotless, and there was a sackcloth belt around his waist. His long grey hair, with 2 azure jade hairpins at his temples, draped behind his head and reached his waist. His gaze was as calm as water as he looked at Demon Commander Dark Knight. Frowning slightly, he muttered to himself, evil spawn of the demon race. His tone was cold and indifferent, faintly containing a trace of killing intent. Demon Commander Dark Knight stared at him and sized him up. Sensing his strength and aura, his pupils immediately shrank. After hesitating for a moment, he said coldly, "Old man, this matter has nothing to do with you. Please step aside." Evidently, he was also afraid of the strength of the azure-robed old man. He did not want to cause more problems, and did not want to have a conflict with him. However, the azure-robed old man raised his eyebrows, and the corner of his mouth hooked in a cold smile. "Ha ha ha, this is the central continent. How can a demon like you dare to step into my race's territory have nothing to do with this old man? Moreover, why would this old man need a reason to kill a demon?" As he spoke, he slowly raised his palms, and a dark green splendor surged from his body. Whoosh 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 whoosh. The surging dark green splendor immediately flew in all directions, landing around the valley. In the blink of an eye, the dark green splendor condensed into a barrier of light with a radius of 30 li, enveloping the entire valley. This area was immediately sealed off, under the control of the azure-robed old man. On the grassland in the valley, the endless grass and flowers immediately retreated like the tide, disappearing completely in the blink of an eye. Demon Commander Dark Knight secretly clenched his fists. Vast and surging demonic power accumulated in his body, and his entire body lit up with the cold, pitch-black light of death. "Old man, do you really want to become enemies with Benshuai?" His tone was cold and low, full of warning. The old man in a green robe didn't seem to hear his words. He dusted his sleeves, and a dark green wooden stick as thick as a child's arm appeared in his palm. The wooden stick was green in color, and there were a few branches growing out of it. It looked like a branch that had been snapped off from a certain tree. However, this seemingly ordinary dark green wooden stick was definitely not ordinary. In fact, it was not even an ordinary object. He held the dark green wooden staff in his right hand and lightly patted his left palm. He said expressionlessly, "This old man hasn't used his boundless staff for many years. Today, I'll use you to practice." As his voice fell, his right hand shook, and he swung the boundless rod at Demon Marshal Dark Knight. The two of them were clearly separated by 1,000 meters, but Demon General Dark Knight felt as if that green wooden stick was smashing down on his head. Just as he was about to circulate his energy to resist and launch a counterattack, 6 dark green sword lights appeared above his head out of thin air. Bang 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 bang. Demon General Dark Knight was caught off guard. He was struck by the 6 dark green sword lights on the spot, and there was a loud, dull sound. A deep pit with a radius of 10 li was blasted out of the dark brown fertile ground, and dust filled the air. The incomparably violent dark green sword lights blasted Demon General Dark Knight into the ground. He lay at the bottom of the pit, battered and exhausted. His protective black light and demonic chi had been completely shattered by the dark green sword lights. Even the 9 underworlds armor he wore had 6 dents. Although the 9 underworlds armor had not been cut, he had suffered internal injuries. Black demonic blood flowed out of his mouth and nose. He struggled to get up, and his eyes widened in disbelief. He stared at the boundless staff in the hands of the old man in a green robe and exclaimed, "What kind of magic treasure is this? It can actually hurt Ben Shuai's 9 underworlds armor. This is impossible, absolutely impossible." Demon General Dark Knight's greatest reliance was the 9 underworlds armor he wore. According to legend, this was a battle armor taken from the 9 underworlds. Although it was not a divine artifact, it was even more so. And the seemingly ordinary wooden staff in the hands of the old man in a green robe did not seem to be a magic treasure at all. It could actually leave dents on the 9 underworlds armor. How inconceivable was this? The old man in a green robe raised his eyebrows and said expressionlessly, "9 underworlds armor. You can actually block this old man's boundless staff. Not bad, it seems you have a very high position in the demon race." As he spoke, he rushed to Demon General Dark Knight's side in a flash. He swung the boundless staff again and smashed it at Demon General Dark Knight. His charging posture and the way he swung the staff looked like a mortal fighting, simple and crude. There were no moves to speak of at all, nor were there any fancy movements or shadows. But it was such a simple attack that made Demon General Dark Knight feel like he was facing a great enemy. His eyes were incomparably solemn. You've actually reached the half-step primordial spirit realm and are about to cross that threshold?" While he was shocked, he immediately released endless black mist and demonic chi to hide himself. Whoosh! His figure flashed and teleported 1,000 meters away, escaping from the huge pit. However, the old man in a green robe also followed up like a ghost and smashed his staff on the top of his head. Bam! Amidst a deafening sound, Demon General Dark Knight was smashed and sent flying 10 kilometers away, crashing into the dark green light screen at the edge of the valley. The black helmet on his head was deeply dented, revealing a deep groove the width of a palm. The terrifying impact broke his neck and bones, causing him to feel dizzy and almost fainted. Demon General Dark Knight was even more terrified. He could not believe this result. He hurriedly got up from the ground and used a secret technique to reconnect his broken neck. Seeing the old man in a green robe chasing after him with the boundless staff, he did not dare to stay. He hurriedly flew into the sky, only wanting to escape. The old man in a green robe flashed and teleported another 5 kilometers away, catching up behind him. Try this old man's new sword technique, soul-chasing sword. Although he was talking about a sword technique, he held the boundless staff in his right hand and smashed it at Demon General Dark Knight's back. A vast green light gushed out of the boundless staff, condensing into a 100-meter-long green blade. It instantly tore through the sky and slashed at Demon General Dark Knight. Bam! Another dull sound burst out, and Demon General Dark Knight was sent flying again, rolling toward the entrance of the valley. A long and narrow dent was left on the black armor on his back, and his internal injuries were even more serious. However, the 9 underworld's armor had blocked most of the power for him, so this injury was nothing to him. He fell at the entrance of the valley with a plop and waved his palms without hesitation, releasing his lifetime's power and slashing out 2 beams of black light of death. The 2 beams of black light slashed at the old man in a green robe and the green light screen at the entrance. The old man in a green robe was not afraid at all. He waved the boundless staff and scattered green light all over the sky, blocking the attack of the black light blades. The black light blades immediately collapsed, bursting into fragments that filled the sky. However, he was also forced back a kilometer by the violent power before he could steady himself. After he stabilized himself, he saw that the dark green light screen had been torn open by the other beam of black light. Demon General Dark Knight turned into a beam of black light, passing through the gap with a whoosh. He escaped from the valley as fast as lightning, flying into the distance. Still want to escape? The old man in a green robe frowned and chased after him with murderous intent. However, at this moment, the voice of the burial of heaven came from the broken sword in the corner of the valley. It used its soul to whisper to the old man in a green robe, "Little Yi, don't chase. Saving people is more important." Hearing this voice, the old man in a green robe suddenly stiffened and stopped. Chapter 1090. The green-robed elder was incomparably shocked and incredulous. His eyes were filled with astonishment and surprise. He couldn't even believe his ears, thinking that he had misheard. But that was a soul transmission, directly imprinted in his mind. There was no need to listen to it with his ears. His eyes swept across the ruined valley and looked into the depths of the valley, landing on a simple and dark broken sword. When he saw that pitch-black broken sword, his expression changed drastically. He was so excited that his heartbeat stopped. Swoosh! The next moment, the green-robed elder could no longer suppress his wild excitement. He teleported to a corner of the valley and held up the broken sword with both hands. Divine sword. It's really Master's divine sword. Just now, when I was in the boundless world, I sensed the divine sword's aura. It made my mind uneasy. I thought it was an illusion. I didn't expect it to be true. It's too unbelievable. After 1,000 years, I actually saw Master's divine sword again. The green-robed elder was so excited that his face was flushed. Even the goatee on his chin was trembling. He held the broken sword with both hands and knelt facing the east. He kowtowed 3 times with a respectful expression, paying his respects. After paying his respects, he stood up and held the broken sword with both hands. He gently caressed it and said with a trembling voice, "Burial of Heaven, is it really you?" Burial of Heaven's voice immediately came from the broken sword. It was as deep and vigorous as ever. "Of course it's me. Little Yi, I haven't seen you for 1,000 years. I didn't expect to meet you here. It's really fate that makes fools of people. Heaven's will is unpredictable." The green-robed elder nodded repeatedly and said in deep agreement, "Yes. 1,000 years passed in the blink of an eye." "Oh, right, burial of heaven, you said saving people was more important." As he spoke, he turned his head and looked to his side. He saw a handsome young man covered in blood lying on the ground. That young man was Ji Tianxing, who had been unconscious all this time. When the green-robed elder and demon martial Dark Knight were fighting, Burial of Heaven carried him on the broken sword and hid in a corner of the valley. That was why he was not killed by the aftermath of the battle. The green-robed old man frowned as he sized up Ji Tianxing. His eyes were filled with doubt. This young man. Why does he look a little familiar? As he spoke, he waved his hand and shot out a gentle green light. He parted the hair covering Ji Tianxing's face and removed the bloodstains on his face. When the green-robed elder saw his true face, his body suddenly trembled. His legs went soft and he was about to kneel down and salute. Ah! It's actually. However, buried heaven sent a voice transmission to stop him in time. Stop. He's not. You've got the wrong person. The green-robed elder's body suddenly stiffened. He stared at the unconscious Ji Tianqing and said doubtfully, Sure enough, I was too excited and made a mistake. There was still a difference between the two of them. This young man was still too inexperienced and had yet to nurture the sword will of the heavens. However, aren't their figures and appearances too similar? Burial of Heaven said in a low tone, this brat inherited his bloodline and inheritance. Of course they're very similar. I see. The green-robed elder instantly came to a realization and revealed an expression full of envy. Burial of Heaven continued, Little Yezi, don't just stand there. Quickly think of a way to save him. His injuries are too severe. If we delay any longer, I'm afraid there will be future troubles. Hearing Burial of Heaven's instructions, the green-robed elder nodded without hesitation. Okay. He reached out his hands and carried the unconscious Ji Tianqing by the waist. He turned around and stepped into the spirit formation door. Burial of Heaven rode on the broken sword and followed closely beside him. After the green-robed elder and the broken sword entered the boundless world, the dark green light screen that covered the sky immediately disappeared. The valley returned to its original appearance. Endless soil emerged, filling up the ravines and craters. All sorts of exotic flowers and herbs also surged out like a tide, covering the earth. The valley became overflowing with spiritual energy once again, as if nothing had happened. The green-robed elder's place of seclusion was called the Boundless World. This was an independent alternate space. The area inside was very vast, a full 10,000 miles in circumference. In the Boundless World, there were no 4 seasons. It was always spring with gentle breezes and warm sunlight. The sky was azure as if it had been washed. Many 5-colored spiritual clouds floated. On the earth, there were undulating dark green mountain ranges, flat grasslands that stretched as far as the eye could see, and huge mirror-like lakes, as well as many winding and rushing rivers. In this space, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was incomparably dense. It condensed into 5-colored spiritual clouds and would frequently sprinkle down heavy rain of spiritual liquid. On the mountains and the earth, there were rare and precious flowers, herbs, and trees everywhere. Those flowers, herbs, and trees were all priceless medicinal materials that could be refined into all sorts of spiritual pills and miraculous medicines. The green-robed elder carried Ji Tianqing and stepped across the sky 1,000 meters with each step, crossing a vast and boundless grassland and flying towards the distant mountains. That mountain range with tall mountains and forests was a top-notch spiritual vein treasure land. Among them, the tallest mountain peak was a full 10,000 meters tall. It was truly indomitable. Above the mountain peak was a vast white sea of clouds. The green-robed elder's residence was on the mountain peak, wrapped in a sea of clouds. On the empty space on the mountain peak with a radius of 30 miles, there were dozens of nurseries of rare spiritual herbs that were turned into a medicinal garden. In the depths of the medicinal garden, there was a dark golden palace called the Boundless Palace. This ancient palace was built entirely from precious requiem wood and spirit-nourishing tree. Its appearance was simple and grand. Although it was not luxurious, it contained the aura of a hermit who was indifferent to fame and fortune. It even had incomparably powerful healing effects. Staying in the Boundless Palace could calm the soul and nourish the spirit. It could silently nurture the divine soul, strengthen one's strength, and increase one's strength. This was definitely an excellent residence that countless experts yearned for even in their dreams. The green-robed elder carried Ji Tianqing into the Boundless Palace and settled him in a secret room with a gentle green light, placing him on a requiem wood bed. Swish! 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 The green-robed elder formed hand seals with both hands and shot out rays of green light that poured into Ji Tianqing's body, helping him clear the bloodstains on his body and checking the condition of his injuries. He was halfway through casting the spell when he suddenly discovered something, and immediately revealed a look of surprise. This kid, not only did he inherit Master's bloodline, he also has the Azurewood spirit body. He only has the strength of the first level of the soul refinement realm, but he can actually exchange blows with that demon expert. That guy has the strength of the 8th level of the soul refinement realm. This is too inconceivable. Broken Sword floated beside him, silently observing Ji Tianqing's situation. Hearing the green-robed elder's words, Burial of Heaven said in a calm tone, his uniqueness is not limited to this. Otherwise, how could he have inherited Kenshin's inheritance? However, help him heal first. You must wake him up as soon as possible. As for his matters, I will slowly explain them to you in the future. The green-robed elder nodded and did not say anything more. He continued to cast the spell to heal Ji Tianqing's injuries. He manipulated the power of the Azurewood between heaven and earth and gave Ji Tianqing several soul-level medicinal pills that he refined. After a short half a day, Ji Tianqing's internal and external injuries were all treated by him, and his condition stabilized. Chapter 1091. After taking care of Ji Tianqing's injuries, the green-robed elder left the secret chamber. He returned to the hall of the palace and poured a cup of spiritual tea from the jade pot. The broken sword flew to his side and landed on the table, lying quietly. The green-robed elder drank his tea and rested while chatting with Burial of Heaven. Burial of Heaven, I never thought that we would meet again after 1,000 years. When you and Master left, I was only at the origin core realm and had not even mastered the 3 sword moves that Master taught me. The green-robed elder's tone was full of emotions as he talked about the past. Burial of Heaven said in a low voice, yes. At that time, you were as young as Tianqing. You were still a piece of unpolished jade. The green-robed elder frowned and asked doubtfully, Burial of Heaven, where did you go after you and Master left? Why is there a legend of Master's death circulating around the continent 100 years later? What did you go through? Why did you become like this and why did Master disappear without a trace? Burial of Heaven remained silent. Perhaps he could not remember what happened back then, or perhaps he did not want to reveal it. The green-robed elder was full of doubts but did not pursue the matter. At this moment, Burial of Heaven asked him again, looking at you now, you seem to be cultivating your body and mind, comprehending the great Tao of heaven and earth, and trying to break through to the primordial spirit realm. The green-robed elder nodded slightly and revealed a look of reminiscence. He said in a weary voice, yes, I reached the spirit refinement realm 800 years ago. 300 years ago, I finally reached the 9th level of the spirit refinement realm. By chance, I entered an ancient realm of the starry sky and obtained a broken branch of the ancient boundless tree. As he spoke, he opened his left hand and a green light surged in his palm. The dark green boundless rod appeared. He gently stroked the boundless rod and smiled. Originally, with my slow aptitude, I might not be able to reach the primordial spirit realm in this lifetime. However, with the help of this boundless tree branch, I have already touched the threshold of the primordial spirit realm and may break through in the next 10 years. Boundless branch? Burial of Heaven was stunned for a moment, and asked in a complicated tone, could it be the legendary boundless tree that grew in the sea of bitterness and was born from the spiritual energy of the other side of the starry sky? The green-robed elder nodded as a gratified smile appeared in his eyes. Ever since I reached the 5th level of the spirit refinement realm, for nearly 500 years, I have been traveling around the Tian Xian land in search of famous mountains, great lakes, and ancient ruins. I've been trying my best to find the whereabouts of you and Master. I've been trying to gather information about you, trying to figure out the mystery of your disappearance and death. Unfortunately, after spending a few hundred years and traveling across the entire Tian Xian land, I still could not find the answer. Burial of Heaven was silent for a while, then said in a low voice, "Don't worry, one day, you will know the truth. However, if you want to fulfill your wish, you must do your best to help Ji Tianqing. He is our hope." Hearing this, the green-robed old man immediately raised his eyebrows and revealed a face full of surprise. "So, this child is the successor that Master has chosen?" "That's right." Burial of Heaven said in a solemn tone, "He has inherited Kenshin's bloodline and cultivated Kenshin's supreme sword art. He reached the spirit refinement realm at the age of 20, and his name is known throughout the world. If you have been outside in the past 2 years, you should have heard of his name and deeds. He is the #1 genius of the human race, the most monstrous genius of the Emperor's son, and also the youngest human domain lord. You have also seen what happened before. He was chased by Demon Marshal Dark Knight and fled all the way from the northern desert to here, before falling into a coma due to his heavy injuries. His talent and aptitude are countless times higher than yours. Only he can fulfill the wish that you have not been able to fulfill." The green-robed elder listened to his words seriously. Every time he heard a story, the shock on his face and in his eyes grew stronger. When he heard the last part, he was silent for a long time before he nodded with a heart full of emotion. He sighed and said, "So that's how it is. 1,000 years ago, although I was known as a genius, I eventually became a transcendent expert. However, compared to Ji Tianqing, the difference is still too great. In all fairness, only a monstrous and peerless genius like him is qualified to inherit Master's legacy." Burial of Heaven said in a solemn tone, "It's good that you understand." The green-robed elder stroked his white beard and pondered for a while. Suddenly, he thought of something and said with a smile, "Since he is Master's successor, I will take this opportunity to give him an opportunity. 2 years ago, I took the essence of the sun and moon and 100 kinds of spiritual herbs to refine a spirit concentrating pill. This pill is a high-grade soul-level medicinal pill. It can help him strengthen the power of his divine soul, condense a divine soul Dharma eye, and reach the second layer of the soul-refining realm. It just so happens that his divine soul's power is overdrawn, so I will give him this spirit-concentrating pill to help him heal his divine soul and increase his strength." Burial of Heaven responded and said in a calm tone, "In that case, you can go." Previously, in order to help him escape, I also consumed a large amount of vitality. I need to rest for a period of time. After saying that, Burial of Heaven flew out of the hall on the broken sword and entered the mountain under Boundless Palace. The broken sword was hidden in the 10,000-meter tall mountain. It constantly absorbed the power of the metal and stone in the mountain, as well as the rich spiritual energy of heaven and earth, quickly recovering its vitality. The green-robed elder entered the secret chamber and took out a pill that flickered with green light and was overflowing with spiritual energy. He gave it to Ji Tianqing to eat. After that, he personally circulated his energy to help Ji Tianqing catalyze the medicinal power and nourish his divine soul. Time passed quickly. Day after day passed. In the boundless world, there were only the green-robed elder and Ji Tianqing, 2 living people, and Burial of Heaven's sword soul. For the next 10 days, the boundless world was as calm as water without any waves. Burial of Heaven had been absorbing energy from the mountain to recover his vitality. Ji Tianqing was still unconscious. He lay on the wooden bed in the secret chamber, quietly recuperating. Every afternoon, the green-robed elder had to give him a type of soul-level medicinal pill to help him catalyze the medicinal power and heal his injuries. 10 days passed. Ji Tianqing's internal and external injuries were all gradually healed. Not even a trace of a scar was left. Even his divine soul injuries were also healed. Furthermore, his divine soul strength was still constantly strengthening, becoming more and more tyrannical. His strength recovered to its peak state. His consciousness was already awakened. Although he did not know what exactly happened, he knew an expert. However, he knew that an expert had saved him and fed him a precious soul-level pill to help him break through to the second level of the soul refinement realm. He naturally had to continue circulating his energy and cultivate. Borrowing the terrifying medicinal power of the divine concentrating pill, he frenziedly strengthened his divine soul strength and condensed the second divine soul magic sword. Very soon, another 10 days passed. He finally condensed the second divine soul magic sword. His strength also naturally reached the second level of the soul refinement realm. When he successfully advanced, his entire body blossomed with a dazzling white light, releasing a powerful and vast aura of a powerhouse. After a long time, the white light of his divine soul receded and the powerful aura dissipated. He opened his eyes and saw a green-robed old man standing in the secret room. The old man was looking at him with a face full of smiles. When he saw the green-robed old man, he immediately guessed that this was his savior. Therefore, he hurriedly got off the bed and bowed to the green-robed old man. His tone was sincere as he said, "Junior Ji Tianqing is extremely grateful to Senior for saving my life and giving me the medicine." The green-robed old man nodded slightly and raised his hand, indicating that he could dispense with the formalities. Then, he said with a face full of smiles, "Tianqing, congratulations on recovering from your injuries. Your cultivation has improved again." Hearing this, Ji Tianqing was stunned. He asked in confusion, "Senior, how do you know me?" The green-robed old man revealed a playful smile. "Of course, it was the burial of heaven who told me." "The burial of heaven, it told you?" Ji Tianqing was stunned again. His expression became more and more confused. "Senior, may I know your name?" Chapter 1092. You are Ren Huangyi? Ji Tianqing was stunned. He looked at the green-robed elder in disbelief. His eyes were filled with excitement. He had heard of Ren Huangyi's name and legendary deeds when he was in the ancient star realm. The 1,000-year-old tomb under Dragon Mountain was the cenotaph that Ren Huangyi had built for Kenshin. 1,000 years ago, Ren Huangyi was the top genius of the Tianqian domain. However, in the past few hundred years, Ren Huangyi had disappeared without a trace. There was no more news about him. Ji Tianqing had always thought that Ren Huangyi had died or left the Tianxian continent. He had never imagined that he would see this legendary figure from 1,000 years ago in the vast Manggu mountain range with his own eyes. For a moment, he couldn't believe that this was true. He looked Ren Huangyi up and down several times before he gradually came back to his senses. Then, he suddenly remembered something else. Before he left the imperial residence, he had paid a visit to the imperial residence lord. The imperial residence lord had told him that if he wanted to deal with the demons, he would need the help of Kenshin's 4 followers. The imperial residence lord had only revealed the 4 words "ancient leaf Xiao Shui" about the 4 followers. In the past 6 months, he had pondered the meaning of these 4 words many times. In the end, he came to a conclusion. These 4 words represented the 4 followers. It was very likely that they were one of the words in their names or titles. There was another possibility. These 4 words represented the surnames of the 4 followers. Now that he had seen Ren Huangyi, he was even more certain of his guess. Ren Huangyi was the Yi in ancient leaf Xiao Shui. Thinking of this, Ji Tianqing had a plan in mind. He followed Ren Huangyi out of the secret chamber and went to sit in the main hall. They chatted while drinking tea. "Senior Ren Huangyi, you were also a genius powerhouse whose name shook the world. Why did you disappear without a trace for hundreds of years?" Ren Huangyi stroked his beard and said indifferently, "When I was young and full of vigor, I diligently practiced martial arts in order to make a name for myself and shake the world. But after 100 years, they became accustomed to the vicissitudes of the world and lost their drive. They only want to climb to the peak of martial arts, fight against the heavens, and explore a wider world." Ji Tianqing vaguely understood his feelings. He nodded and said, "So, you don't care about the affairs of the world and live in seclusion in this paradise for hundreds of years?" Emperor Yi nodded slightly and said, "That's right. This place was located in the depths of the Mangu mountain range. For hundreds of years, very few people had set foot here, so no one would disturb this old man's peace. Moreover, this boundless world is a paradise left behind from the ancient times. It's the most suitable place to cultivate the body and mind, nurture the soul, and comprehend the grand Tao of heaven and earth. Ji Tianqing could tell that Emperor Yi had lived in seclusion in the boundless world for several hundred years. His state of mind had long been as calm as water. Fame, wealth, women, love, and enmity in the mortal world were probably unable to arouse his interest anymore. His only wish now was to comprehend the great Tao of heaven and earth and break through the shackles of the essence soul realm. After being silent for a moment, Ji Tianqing said in a solemn tone, "Senior Emperor Yi, although I know that you've already stopped caring about the affairs of the world for several hundred years and only wanted to live in seclusion here and cultivate the martial way. But the situation in the present profound sky continent is becoming more and more tense and critical. 1,000 years ago, Kenshin suppressed the ancient Fiend Emperor in the Tianjin region. But just 2 years ago, the Fiend Emperor broke through the seal and reappeared in the world. After the Fiend Emperor returned to the northern desert, the Fiend race changed their previous decadent and dispirited aura and became ambitious once more, madly invading the human race, the demon race, and the water race. Moreover, the curse that had always existed in the Fiend race's bloodline was also resolved and removed. The present Fiend race, without the shackles of the bloodline curse, developed and strengthened even more rapidly. Their forces were currently skyrocketing wildly. Not long after, the Fiend race will surely sweep across the world, bringing bloody slaughter and disaster to the various races of the continent. Ji Tianqing told Emperor Yi the situation in the profound sky continent and the Fiend race in full detail. After Emperor Yi finished listening, only then did he know that the situation in the outside world had actually undergone so many changes. However, he had not paid attention to worldly affairs for hundreds of years, and his heart had long been as still as water. Even when he heard this news, he only sighed with emotion and did not have much of a reaction. Ji Tianqing looked at Emperor Yi with a solemn expression and said in a solemn tone, "Senior Emperor Yi, you also know that I have a blood feud with the Fiend race that is absolutely irreconcilable. Moreover, I have inherited the Kenshin bloodline and legacy, and vowed to exterminate the Fiend race, protect my family, friends, and the people of the human race, and return the profound sky continent to a bright and clear universe. But with my own strength, it is simply impossible to accomplish this great task, so I would like to ask you to come out of retirement and lend me a hand." Finished speaking, Ji Tianqing stood up and bowed deeply to Emperor Yi. Emperor Yi also hurriedly got up and stretched out both hands to help him up. He shook his head repeatedly and said, "Tianqing, this cannot be done. Quickly get up, this old man cannot accept such a great bow from you." Ji Tianqing frowned slightly and asked in a low voice, "Senior Emperor Yi, do you not agree?" Emperor Yi revealed a difficult expression and sighed. He said earnestly, "Tianqing, do you know why this old man has been living in seclusion here and has not appeared in the world for hundreds of years?" "Why?" Ji Tianqing asked. Emperor Yi stroked his beard and looked at the sea of clouds outside the main hall. He said slowly, "Other than going into seclusion to comprehend the great Tao, this old man is also waiting for someone." "Waiting for someone?" Ji Tianqing frowned and asked doubtfully, "May I ask who you are waiting for?" "An old friend." "Let's not talk about this matter." Emperor Yi waved his hand and sighed deeply. "As for your request, please forgive this old man for not being able to agree to it for the time being, and for not being able to come out of retirement to help you. For thousands of years, all the major races, kingdoms, and forces on the continent have risen and fallen. Things will move in the opposite direction when they reach an extreme. This is the principle of heaven and earth, the Tao of yin and yang. All prosperity and decline are determined by the will of heaven. This old man is just a speck of sand in the world, mediocre and ordinary. I am not like you, a dragon among men who can stir up the world and change the situation of the continent. Even if this old man were to come out of retirement to help you now, it would be useless. I would not be able to change anything, and I would not be able to affect the situation of the world. Hearing Emperor Ye's words, the light of hope in Ji Tianqing's eyes immediately dimmed. He thought to himself, it seems that Emperor Ye's mentality has indeed aged after living in seclusion for hundreds of years. He seems to have seen through the mundane world. Now, he only wants to live in seclusion in the boundless world and break through the shackles of the primordial soul realm. He wants to guard this paradise and wait for his old friend to return. At this moment, Emperor Yi saw his gloomy expression and said to him, however, Tianqing, don't worry. When your strength is strong enough and you truly need help, this old man will naturally come out of retirement and lend you a helping hand. This old man believes that day will not be too far away. Ji Tianqing was slightly relieved. He bowed to Emperor Yi and cupped his hands. If that is the case, then I will first thank Senior Emperor Yi. Chapter 1093. Emperor Ye's reaction and attitude were within Ji Tianqing's expectations. When he was in the Eastern Sea's returning ruins, he had entered the Eastern Mountain residence and explored the Eastern Mountain Exalt's cave abode. From the heaven viewing record of the world, he could see the Eastern Mountain Exalt's way of life and attitude. The Eastern Mountain Exalt was a peak primordial soul Exalt powerhouse. He had the qualifications and strength to stir up the world and change the situation of the continent. However, the Eastern Mountain Exalt did not do so. Instead, he chose to isolate himself from the world, observing the heavens and reading the world, comprehending the great Tao of heaven and earth, only seeking to climb to the peak of the martial Tao. Now, Emperor Yi had a similar attitude. However, he was more humane than the Eastern Mountain Exalt. He was not as aloof and cold as the Eastern Mountain Exalt. When Ji Tianqing bade farewell to Emperor Yi, he was still thinking to himself, could it be that transcendents who have lived for hundreds and thousands of years are all above ordinary people, indifferent to fame and fortune, and unconcerned with the affairs of the world? One day, if I can also reach the primordial soul Exalt realm, will I also be like them, viewing ordinary people as ants, wholeheartedly seeking to reach the peak of the martial Tao? He asked himself and pondered for a while. The conclusion he came to was no. He could not do it because he had not yet severed his ties with the world, had not yet severed his 7 emotions and 6 desires. After bowing to Emperor Yi and taking his leave, Ji Tianqing turned and walked towards the door of the main hall. Emperor Yi hurriedly followed and sent him out of the main hall. As he walked, he said, Tianqing, now that your injuries have just healed, if there is nothing urgent, don't be in a hurry to return to the central continent. The boundless world is full of verdant trees and spiritual qi. It is very suitable for you to stay here and recuperate, consolidating your martial Tao. Ji Tianqing shook his head and declined Emperor Ye's invitation to stay. Senior Emperor Yi, I am very sorry. I have worldly matters to attend to and must return to the central continent as soon as possible. There are still many friends and family members who are worried about me. I have to return as soon as possible so that they can be at ease. Emperor Yi nodded and did not urge him to stay. The two of them stood at the door of the main hall. Emperor Yi looked at him with a deep gaze and said earnestly, Tianqing, I know that you have great ambitions and lofty aspirations. But you must set your sights further. Don't care about temporary gains and losses, honor and disgrace, and don't be too attached to the matter of exterminating the demon race. Your mission is not on this continent, nor is it related to the demon race. You still have a long way to go. You bear the burden of the burial of heaven and our hope. Ji Tianqing could roughly understand what he meant. Perhaps it had something to do with Kenshin's death. However, that was a matter for the future, and it was still very far away. For the time being, it was inconvenient for him to say anything. He could only nod and say, Thank you for your teachings, Senior. I understand. Emperor Yi nodded slightly. He stroked his beard and said, Since that's the case, I won't keep you any longer. That demon martial Dark Knight has already been injured by this old man and fled in panic. Now that you've returned to the central state, I believe you won't encounter any danger. Ji Tianqing nodded and cupped his hands in salute. Then, he used his soul to call out to Burial of Heaven. Burial of Heaven, it's time for us to leave. Burial of Heaven had been recuperating on the mountain peak, absorbing energy to recover its vitality. After so many days of recuperation, it had already recovered 80% of its strength. The broken sword once again became encircled by a black light, and its sharpness was threatening. Hearing Ji Tianqing's call, the broken sword flew out of the mountain peak with a whoosh and arrived in front of the main hall. Ji Tianqing put away the broken sword. Accompanied by Emperor Yi, he flew over the boundless sea of clouds and flew toward the exit of the boundless world. Not long after, the two of them arrived at the exit. Emperor Yi opened the exit of the boundless world. Ji Tianqing bid farewell to him and left through the large door of green light. He returned to the Mangu mountain range, flew high into the sky, and returned to the central state as fast as lightning. For the next half a month, he had been flying and hurrying on his way. During this time, he didn't encounter any more dangers or setbacks. At noon on the 16th day, he finally returned to the central state city safely. The warm noon sun spilled over the eternal sacred city, causing the entire city to be covered in a layer of gold. It appeared resplendent and magnificent. After a year, Ji Tianqing returned to the central state city again. His heart was filled with emotions. A year ago, I left the central state city. First, I went to the great swamp of the southern wasteland. Then, I went to the imperial court of the eastern sea. After passing through the ruins of the eastern sea, I entered the northern desert. After leaving the northern desert, I took a detour to the western wasteland and passed through the Mangu mountain range before returning to the central state city. In this year, I circled around the Tianxian continent and experienced countless dangers and battles. Fortunately, I turned misfortune into blessings along the way and finally returned safely with Yao Yao. Thinking of this, he looked at the flourishing city in front of him and was actually a little absent-minded. A moment later, he landed outside the towering city gate and stood on the wide bluestone road. He woke up Yun Yao and Ji Ku, who were cultivating in the world inside the sword, and said to the two of them, Yao Yao, Ku, we have returned to the central state. Ku, you have followed me out of the central state for a year. Your brother Kuan Wu and your parents must be very worried. You should return to the Star Moon Manor first and let them know that you have returned safely. Ji Ku also understood this point and nodded in agreement. She waved goodbye to him and Yun Yao. Brother Tianqing, senior sister, I will return first. If there is anything, contact me again. Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao waved goodbye to her and stood outside the city gate to send her off with their eyes. After Ji Ku left, Ji Tianqing turned to Yun Yao and said, Yao Yao, your body and bloodline have been demonized more and more. Send a message to the Cloud Spirit Palace and tell them that you are safe so that father-in-law and mother-in-law won't be worried. Later, we will return to the Monarch Mansion and see the Great Divine Master. We will ask him to help you deal with the demonization. Yun Yao nodded and said, Okay, I will send a message to the Cloud Spirit Palace now. Then, she took out a communication jade slip from her spatial ring and sent a message to Yun Zhongqi. After sending the message, she hesitated for a moment and said with a frown, Tianqing, it is not convenient for me to meet people in my current state. Indeed, her skin was faintly black and her eyes were blood red. Her hair was silver and her nails were sharp. She really looked like a demoness. Ji Tianqing nodded and opened the entrance to the Sword World. He let her enter the Sword World and stay in the peaceful Earth City for the time being. Then, he went to the Forest of Divine Steels in the city alone and entered the Monarch Mansion. After returning to the Monarch Mansion, he flew across the sky at lightning speed towards the mountains within 1,000 miles. However, when he flew into the mountains, he saw dozens of princes sitting in the sky above a towering mountain. The towering mountain was 10,000 meters tall. It was the tallest mountain in the mountains and also the core of the heaven and earth formation. There was a 5-colored spiritual lake with a radius of 5 kilometers at the top of the mountain. Dozens of well-dressed princes were sitting in the air above the spiritual lake, and they seemed to be discussing something important. Seeing this, Ji Tianqing immediately recalled the scene when he first entered the monarch mansion. It was also like this. Back then, he used the invisibility talisman to sneak into the monarch mansion and happened to see God Master Black Feather gathering all the princes to discuss something important above the spirit lake. Chapter 1094. Ji Tianqing could see the situation clearly even though he was still 100 miles away. More than 40 princes were sitting on a spiritual jade throne above the 5-colored spiritual lake at the peak of the mountain. Everyone was gathered in a group, like stars surrounding the moon, surrounding a dazzling golden lotus throne. A tall man in a black robe sat on the lotus throne. He was dressed simply in a black robe. His long hair was draped behind his head, and there were no decorations on his body. However, he had a dignified face, and he exuded the aura of an expert who looked down on the world. Without a doubt, this black-robed man was Divine Master He Yu. Ji Tianqing could sense that Divine Master He Yu's strength was not far from Emperor Ye's. They were both half a step into the primordial soul realm. However, Emperor Ye's strength and aura were more powerful than Divine Master He Yu's. He would definitely break through to the primordial soul realm faster. Around Divine Master He Yu sat the princes of the human, demon, and water tribes. Among them, Tai of the water tribe, Kunwu of the demon tribe, Fox Princess, and the Son of Heaven of the human tribe were all present. When Ji Tianqing rushed to the scene, he heard them discussing something. They were talking about the northern desert and the demon tribe. Before he could hear what they were discussing, Divine Master He Yu sensed his aura. He stopped talking and looked up at him. When Divine Master He Yu saw him, he raised his eyebrows. His eyes were filled with relief. Many of the princes noticed the change in Divine Master He Yu's expression. They turned to look at Ji Tianqing. When they saw Ji Tianqing appear, they quieted down. Their eyes were filled with shock and disbelief. Obviously, no one expected Ji Tianqing to appear and return safely. Ji Tianqing stopped in front of Divine Master He Yu. He bowed respectfully and said, "Prince Ji Tianqing greets the Divine Master." Divine Master He Yu looked at him with a burning gaze. A rare smile appeared on his usually cold face. He nodded and said, "Good. Very good. You came back just in time." Ji Tianqing frowned doubtfully. Apparently, he didn't understand what he meant. At this moment, Kunwu revealed an excited expression and said with a smile, "Tianqing, I didn't expect you to return safe and sound. This is incredible." Long Yunxiao also revealed a smile and nodded. "Tianqing, it's great that you can return safely." The Grand Divine Master gathered all the princes in the mansion to discuss how to invade the northern desert and rescue you and Yunyao. "I didn't expect you to come back." It wasn't just Kun Wu and Ji Tianqing. Fox Princess, Ling Yixiong, and the others also exclaimed in surprise. They felt disbelief and shock at Ji Tianqing's return. Ji Tianqing saw everyone's reaction and understood everything. He chuckled and said, "It seems that you all already know what happened." Divine Master He Yu nodded slightly and explained calmly, "When you left Zhongzhou, we didn't know what happened. However, not long ago, Tai Yi returned from the East Sea and brought back the news. He said that you broke into the northern desert alone to rescue Yun Yao from the demonic king's lair. Everyone was worried about you and Yun Yao and was discussing how to rescue you. I didn't expect you to come back." After listening to Divine Master He Yu's explanation, Ji Tianqing finally understood the reason. He turned to look at Tai Yi and gave him a grateful look. However, Tai Yi looked calm and didn't say anything. He only nodded slightly at him as a greeting. Divine Master He Yu stared at Ji Tianqing and asked, "Tianqing, did you really break into the northern desert alone and sneak into the demonic king's lair? Ji Tianqing nodded. The many princes immediately cried out in surprise, and they all revealed looks of disbelief. Oh my God! Ji Tianqing is too bold. I heard from Tai Yi that Ji Tianqing went to the northern desert. I couldn't believe it. I didn't expect it to be true. This guy is really not afraid of death. He even dares to go to the demonic king's lair. That's right. Not only did he dare to go in, but he also came back alive. This is a miracle. Even a soul-tempering stage powerhouse wouldn't dare to go into the demonic king's lair, let alone us princes. Everyone stared at Ji Tianqing and sized him up carefully. Their eyes were filled with surprise and admiration. Fox Princess's beautiful eyes shone brightly as she looked at Ji Tianqing from head to toe. Suddenly, she sensed that Ji Tianqing's aura was a little strange. Her expression changed and she looked shocked. Oh my God! Didn't you guys notice? Ji Tianqing's cultivation realm seems to have broken through to the ethereal stage. Hearing her words, all the princes were stunned. Everyone released their spiritual senses to check Ji Tianqing's strength. Then, their expressions changed drastically as they let out heartfelt exclamations and exclamations. He really has broken through. He is at the soul-tempering stage. He has reached the soul-tempering stage. Ah! Ji Tianqing has only been in the palace for less than 3 years and he has already reached the soul-tempering stage. Comparisons are odious. No wonder this guy is the #1 genius of the human race. He is so powerful. Now, he is not only the #1 genius of the human race, but also the #1 genius of the imperial palace. He is the most powerful prince. The #1 prince, Ji Tianqing, deserves the title. More than 50 princes were whispering to each other. The atmosphere was very lively. Everyone's eyes were filled with shock. They couldn't help but exclaim in admiration and envy. The place was noisy and the people were talking for a long time. After a while, Divine Master He Yu waved his hand and asked everyone to quiet down. He looked at Ji Tianqing calmly and asked in a serious tone, Tianqing, you broke into the northern desert alone and went deep into the Demon King's lair. Did you save Yunyao? Yes, I did. Ji Tianqing nodded and said with a worried look, but her situation is not good. I was about to report to you and ask for your help. Divine Master He Yu nodded and said, it's good that you saved her. As for the other things, we will talk about it later. In the past 6 months, the demon race has been growing rapidly. They are gathering their army and attacking the demon race and the aquatic race's territories. The demon race has even attacked the border of Zhongzhou several times, trying to invade Zhongzhou. Today, I have gathered everyone for a meeting. I am going to persuade the 3 races to join forces and attack the northern desert demon race. Tianqing, you have been in the northern desert for a long time. You must know something about the demon race. Tell us what you found out so that everyone can be prepared. Ji Tianqing shook his head and said seriously, Great Divine Master, we can't rush to attack the northern desert. We have to think about it in the long run. Since ancient times, the demon race had been cursed by the legendary goddess. Now that the curse has been removed, the demon race has lost its shackles. That is why they can grow rapidly. Chapter 1095. Regarding the bloodline curse, Divine Master He Yu knew something. However, many of the princes present had never heard of this legend, so they knew nothing about it. Hearing Ji Tianqing's words, everyone was surprised and confused. They then started to discuss among themselves. Divine Master He Yu frowned and said seriously, if this news is true, then we're in big trouble. Ji Tianqing nodded and did not say anything else. Divine Master He Yu pondered for a moment before he made a decision. He said to the princes present, everyone, Ji Tianqing and Yunyao have returned safely. The rescue plan is cancelled. Also, the situation with the demon race has changed. The three races' joint attack on the northern desert will be put on hold for now. After I've made a decision, I'll inform everyone. Now, let's go back and cultivate. After the meeting was dismissed, Divine Master He Yu looked at Ji Tianqing and sent a voice transmission to him. Tianqing, you've just returned to the imperial residence. Go and settle your own business. After you've settled your business, come to the Black Feather Palace to find me. Ji Tianqing nodded silently. Then, Divine Master He Yu turned into a stream of light and flew up to the sky, returning to the Black Feather Palace. The princes also stood up and sent him off. After Divine Master He Yu left, they dispersed. Tai Yi stood up calmly and looked at Ji Tianqing. He nodded and flew away with the other princes of the water race. Long Yunxiao, Kuan Wu, Fox Princess, Ling Yichuan and the others were not in a hurry to leave. They all stayed. Everyone came to Ji Tianqing and asked him about the situation with concern. Kuan Wu was the most anxious. He asked with concern, Tianqing, where's Cuckoo? She left with you. There's no news about her until now. Is she back? Ji Tianqing nodded and comforted him, Kuan Wu, don't worry. Cuckoo has been following me. She's back safely. When we were outside the city gate, I asked her to go back to the Star Moon Manor first. I don't want you, the Demon King and Demon Queen, to worry. Hearing this answer, Kunwu finally felt at ease. Long Yunxiao looked at Ji Tianqing with shining eyes and asked worriedly, Tianqing, how is Yao Yao? Just now, I heard you say that her situation doesn't seem good. Ji Tianqing glanced at him and nodded. That's true, but you don't have to worry too much. Her life isn't in danger. I'll tell you the details later. Long Yunxiao nodded slightly. He suppressed the doubts and worries in his heart and stopped asking. Fox Princess and Ling Yichong also gathered around and asked, Tianqing, you have intruded into the northern desert alone. How can you walk around the northern desert? How did you sneak into the Demon Emperor's lair? The northern desert is full of devil tribes and towns. Among them, there are countless experts and powerhouses. They are all very bloodthirsty and ferocious. Tianqing, you are really bold. Ji Tianqing chatted with them for a while. He briefly explained the matter of pretending to be a devil, which dispelled the doubts in their hearts. Then, he bid farewell to everyone and turned to fly back to the Tianqing Palace. Long Yunxiao hesitated for a moment, then hurriedly followed him and rushed to the Tianqing Palace. After a quarter of an hour, the two returned to the Tianqing Palace and landed in front of the gate. The Tianqing Palace was still the same as before. It was shrouded in colorful spirit clouds, and the heaven and earth spiritual energy was very abundant. Over 100 guards and maids were guarding the main entrance of the heavenly palace, as well as the main roads, cleaning the palace until it was spotless. Seeing Ji Tianqing come back, the guards guarding the gate were full of joy and excitement. They hurriedly bowed and saluted. Ji Tianqing led Long Yunxiao through the gate and into the study room. They sat down and talked. Although the maids brought them spirit tea and spirit fruits, Long Yunxiao was worried about Long Yunxiao's safety. However, Long Yunxiao was worried about Yunyao's safety and did not have time to drink tea. After he sat down, he asked impatiently, Tianqing, how is Yao Yao? What exactly happened? Ji Tianqing explained to him, when the Devil Emperor captured Yao Yao, he brought her back to the Devil race's holy land in the northern desert. The Devil Emperor used an ancient Devil Dao secret art. Borrowing the power of the Samurai's soul altar and the myriad devil blood pool, he spent 49 days to transform Yao Yao into the ancient devil blood god. From then on, Yao Yao was completely demonized. Her consciousness retreated into the depths of her soul. Her body became that of a devil woman, and a new devil soul was born. She was conferred as the devil race's saintess by the Devil Emperor. She used a secret art to send down the holy spring to all the major devil tribes. Billions of devils were baptized by the holy spring, and the bloodline curse was dissolved and removed. They were all reborn, and their talents and aptitudes were greatly improved. Hearing this, Long Yunxiao couldn't help but exclaim in disbelief. How could this be? Yao Yao hated the devil race the most. The devil emperor was so despicable that he completely demonized her and turned her into the devil race's saintess. Ji Tianqing nodded and said in a low voice, yes, this is also the most painful knot in Yao Yao's heart. She hated the devil race the most, but in the end, she became the devil race's saintess. She helped countless devils get rid of their curses, and allowed the devil race to develop rapidly. After I rescued her, I helped her get rid of the devil's soul, and awakened her soul. After she woke up, she blamed herself for this matter for a long time. She still hasn't resolved the knot in her heart. Long Yunxiao shook his head and said with a face full of indignation, no. This isn't Yao Yao's fault. Why would she feel guilty? If she wants to blame someone, she can only blame the devil emperor for being too sinister and despicable. After a moment of silence, his anger subsided, and he continued to ask, that's right, Yao Yao's soul has already awakened. What danger is she in? Ji Tianqing frowned and said, although I've already gotten rid of the devil's soul and let her regain her original consciousness, her body is still that of a devil's, and she's still demonizing. Her appearance is becoming more and more like the devil race, and the blood flowing in her body is also the blood of the devil race. I'm helpless about this, so I can only ask Great Divine Master He Yu for help. I hope he has a solution. So that's how it is. Long Yunxiao suddenly understood. With a complicated expression, he sighed and said, Yao Yao hated the devil race the most, but now she's turned into the body of a devil race, and the devil race's blood is flowing in her body. She must feel disgusted and uncomfortable, and doesn't want to show herself, right? That's right. Ji Tianqing slightly nodded and said with a worried expression, she came back with me, but she doesn't want everyone to see her current appearance. She used to be a proud daughter of heaven, the number one beauty of Central State, a pure fairy, but now she's turned into a devil woman. How can she accept this? Long Yunxiao understood the cause and effect of this matter, but another question arose in his heart. Tianqing, there's something I don't understand. When the devil emperor kidnapped Yao Yao, it was obviously premeditated. Why did the devil emperor turn Yao Yao into the blood god son and confer her as the devil race's saintess? With Yao Yao's strength, how could she use a secret technique to release the holy spring and remove the curse of the devil race's bloodline? Ji Tianqing nodded and said, this question has puzzled me for a long time. Chapter 1096. The reason why Ji Tianqing thought so was because he had seen the mysterious pearl in Yun Yao's mind. That ocean blue pearl was very mysterious and had a powerful aura. It was not any weaker than his heaven-mending pearl. It was definitely an extraordinary divine item. Long Yunxiao was startled for a moment before revealing a look of understanding. He nodded and said, in the ancient legends, Goddess Yaoguang sacrificed her life to plant a bloodline curse on the demon race. If Yao Yao is really related to Goddess Yaoguang, it is not hard to understand how she could remove the curse. However, this matter is really hard to believe. Ji Tianqing looked at him calmly and said in a deep voice, there are many ancient legends that have been passed down for tens of thousands of years. Naturally, there is a reason and basis for them. Those seemingly miraculous and incomparably bizarre legends cannot be completely believed, but it is also impossible not to believe. Long Yunxiao nodded and said, since that is the case, then I will not waste your time. You should quickly go find the great divine master and think of a way to save Yao Yao. I will take my leave for now. If there is any news about Yao Yao, remember to inform me. Finished speaking, he cupped his hands towards Ji Tianqing and was about to get up and leave. Ji Tianqing suddenly thought of something and quickly reached out to stop him. Emperor, please wait. I still have something to ask you. Long Yunxiao stopped and turned his head to look at him. He asked, what is it? Ji Tianqing did not beat around the bush and asked in a deep voice, Emperor, do you know about Divine General Yu Tianhong who is guarding the border of the western wilderness? Long Yunxiao was startled. He frowned and asked, what is it? You have no interaction with this person. Why do you suddenly want to ask about him? Could it be that he has offended you? Ji Tianqing did not deny it. He looked at him calmly and said, can you tell me about this person? Long Yunxiao's mouth curved into a cold smile. He said in a playful tone, I have been secretly watching this person Yu Tianhong. I can be considered to have a thorough understanding of him. I will not comment on this person's temperament and way of doing things for the time being. However, he has always been very close to the third prince. Their relationship seems to be unusual. Third Prince Long Zitian. No wonder. Ji Tianqing raised his eyebrows as a cold light flashed in his eyes. He suddenly came to a realization and finally understood the reason. No wonder he had no enmity with Yu Tianhong, but Yu Tianhong just watched him die and didn't save him. Yu Tianhong even wanted him to be killed by Demon Martial Dark Knight. It was all because of the third prince, Long Zitian. Long Yunxiao saw that his expression was a little strange, so he quickly asked, Tianqing, what's going on? Did Yu Tianhong attack you? Ji Tianqing waved his hand and said, don't make wild guesses. I know what I'm doing. You don't have to worry about it. Long Yunxiao looked at him deeply, but didn't ask any more questions. He bid farewell and left. Ji Tianqing watched his back as he left. He frowned and pondered for a moment before walking out of the study. He first called for the housekeeper. After a few words of advice, he left Tianqing Palace and rushed to Black Feather Palace. When he arrived at Black Feather Palace, Divine Master Black Feather was sitting upright in the cold main hall, meditating silently. He walked into the main hall and stood in front of Divine Master Black Feather. He bowed and said, Imperial Prince Ji Tianqing greets Great Divine Master. Divine Master Black Feather slowly opened his eyes and looked at him calmly. He nodded slightly and said, since you're here, tell me about Yunyao's situation. Great Divine Master, it's like this. Ji Tianqing told him the truth and the process of the matter in full detail. After he finished, he looked at Divine Master Black Feather with eyes full of hope and asked worriedly, Great Divine Master, given Yunyao's current situation, do you have any way to save her? Divine Master Black Feather frowned and said with a grave expression, I didn't expect that the Demon Emperor's methods would be so sinister and despicable. He transformed Yunyao into the Blood God. Although I've lived for countless years, I've never heard of such a thing. I've never heard of Yunyao's situation, and there's no precedent in history. Tianqing, please forgive me for not being able to do anything. I'm sorry. Divine Master Black Feather's words were like a bolt from the blue to Ji Tianqing. He was full of hope and expectation as he fled from the northern desert. He wanted to escape back to Zhongzhou no matter what. He thought that the great Divine Master would have a way to save Yunyao as long as he returned to the Emperor's mansion. However, he didn't expect that even Divine Master Black Feather couldn't do anything. How is this possible? Great Divine Master, you're knowledgeable and powerful. You must have a way. He was unwilling to give up. He looked at Divine Master Black Feather with a pleading face and said, Great Divine Master, please help me. Only you can save Yunyao. Divine Master Black Feather looked troubled. After thinking for a while, he said in a deep voice, Tianqing, don't worry. I won't leave you in the lurch. Send Yunyao back to the Cloud Spirit Palace first so that she can rest and recuperate. Miracle Dr. Bailey should be able to buy some time for her and slow down the demonization. I also need some time to read the ancient books and history books to find a solution for you. Ji Tianqing knew that Divine Master Black Feather had tried his best. This was the best he could do. He couldn't ask for more. He could only bow to Divine Master Black Feather and say sincerely, Great Divine Master, I thank you on behalf of Yunyao. If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave now. Go ahead. Divine Master Black Feather nodded slightly and waved his hand. Ji Tianqing left the hall with a heavy heart. He left the Black Feather Palace and flew toward the exit of the Emperor's mansion. He didn't dare to waste any time. He could only send Yunyao back to the Cloud Spirit Palace as soon as possible and let Miracle Dr. Bailey and Yun Zhongqi take care of her. As long as Yunyao's problem wasn't solved, he couldn't be at ease. With Yunyao's current demonization, her appearance would become even more ferocious in at most a month. She wouldn't look like a human at all. At that time, she would also grow to 3 meters tall. Her body would be strong and muscular. Her skin would be black and she would even grow thick hair. Ji Tianqing's heart clenched at the thought of this. After leaving the Emperor's mansion, he flew across the sky and rushed toward the Cloud Spirit Palace. Back then, he was only at the Sky Origin realm. It took him about 2 days to get to the Cloud Spirit Palace from Zhongzhou. Now, his speed had increased by a few times. It only took him half a day to reach the Cloud Spirit Palace. When he flew across the sea of clouds and landed on the square outside the Cloud Spirit Palace, it was already midnight. The guards outside the palace gate were stunned for a while before they recognized him. Then, the guards were surprised and excited. They quickly knelt down and saluted him. Ji Tianqing didn't have time to care about the guards. He quickly ran into the Cloud Spirit Palace and asked the leader of the guards to inform Miracle Dr. Bailey and Yun Zhongqi. He waited in the hall for about 15 minutes. Miracle Dr. Bailey, Yun Zhongqi, and Yun Zhongqi rushed over. The 3 of them were very excited. They quickly ran into the hall. When they saw Ji Tianqing, they couldn't help but exclaim. Tianqing! You're finally back. Chapter 1097. For the past year, Divine Dr. Bailey, Yun Zhongqi, and his wife had been worried and praying for him every day and night. They had been waiting day and night for Ji Tianqing's safe return. At this moment, the 3 of them were very excited and full of emotions. After entering the main hall, the 3 of them surrounded Ji Tianqing and asked about his well-being. Tianqing, I heard that you broke into the northern desert alone and entered the Demon King's lair to rescue Yao Yao. You must have suffered a lot and experienced countless dangers in the northern desert alone, right? Thank God, you made a trip to the northern desert and came back alive. That's incredible. Tianqing, did you rescue Yao Yao? After not seeing each other for a year, the 3 of them had too many things to say to Ji Tianqing and too many questions to ask him. Ji Tianqing quickly pulled the 3 of them to sit down and said with a smile, Master, father-in-law, mother-in-law, don't worry. I've brought Yao Yao back. I know that you've been on tenterhooks every day for the past year, worrying about me and Yao Yao. But don't worry, it's all over now. While talking to the 3 of them, he also observed their condition. When the Demon King intercepted the wedding procession and kidnapped Yun Yao, he severely injured Divine Dr. Bailey, Yun Zhongqi, and his wife. Bailey Ningsu's injury was the most serious and she almost lost her life. Although she survived and recovered a lot after a year of recuperation, her complexion had recovered a lot. However, there were hidden injuries in her body that greatly reduced her strength and made her look older. Yun Zhongqi looked the same on the surface, but there were hidden injuries in his body. His strength was much weaker than before, and his soul aura was also weaker than before. Only Divine Dr. Bailey still looked the same, with white hair and a weak body. Of course, he looked older than before, and his waist was hunched even more. Ji Tianqing saw this and his heart was full of pity. His hatred for the Demon King also deepened. After everyone chatted for a while, Bailey Ningsu asked, Tianqing, you said that Yao Yao came back with you, but where is she? Mother hasn't seen her for a year. Quickly ask her to come out and let Mother take a look. Miracle Dr. Bailey and Yun Zhongqi had the same thought as well. They looked at him with hopeful eyes. Okay, I'll ask her to come out now. Ji Tianqing nodded and silently took out the broken sword, opening the exit of the sword world. Shwa! With a flash of white light, Yun Yao appeared in the hall and stood in front of everyone. Miracle Dr. Bailey, Yun Zhongqi and his wife looked at her expectantly. However, when everyone saw her face clearly, they were stunned on the spot. Their faces were full of astonishment as their eyes widened. Yun Yao was wearing a long white dress. Her feet were bare as she stood in the middle of the hall. She was already 2 meters tall and slender, with long silver hair hanging down to her waist. In her big clear eyes, there was a pair of blood-red pupils, like the eyes of a demon. Her lips were dark purple and her skin was suffused with a black aura. Her fingernails were also black, sharp and long. No matter how one looked at her, she didn't look like a human girl. She looked more like a demon. Oh my God! Yao Yao! My daughter, how did you become like this? Bailey Ningsu covered her mouth with both hands. She looked like she was in great pain. Tears welled up in her eyes and her voice was a little hoarse. Miracle Dr. Bailey and Yun Zhongqi also came to their senses. Their expressions were very ugly. They were shocked and worried. Tianqing, what's going on? Miracle Dr. Bailey asked as he released his divine sense to check on Yun Yao's condition. Yun Zhongqi frowned and asked in a low voice, Tianqing, how did Yao Yao become like this? She's like a demon, which? Tianqing was also very depressed. He wanted to explain, but his voice was very dry. In the end, he could only lower his head and say helplessly, I'm sorry. I tried my best. The Demon King's methods are too despicable. Yun Yao looked at her parents and grandfather expressionlessly. She said in a calm voice, Grandfather, father, mother, this has nothing to do with Tianqing. He risked his life to save me. He almost lost his life several times. He tried his best. It's the Demon King. He used an ancient demon Dao secret technique to demonize me. I became a demon under his control and worked for him. Yun Yao's voice was very calm. She explained to her parents and grandfather what had happened. In the past 2 months, she had suffered a great deal of guilt, self-blame, and inferiority. She also had a strong sense of anger and hatred. Now that she mentioned what had happened, it was no doubt rubbing salt on her wounds. But she endured it silently. She looked calm and indifferent, burying all the anger and pain in her heart. She didn't want the people closest to her to be sad, in pain, and worried for her. After a long time, Bailey Ningsu wiped her tears and stopped sobbing. Everyone quieted down. Tianqing said with a serious face, I've asked the great divine master of the monarch mansion. He couldn't do anything. He could only let Yao Yao rest in Cloud Spirit Palace. He needs some time to read ancient books and find a way to save Yao Yao. Dr. Bailey nodded and said in a serious tone, Tianqing, don't worry. I will take good care of Yao Yao. I will do everything I can to cure her. Yun Zhongqi frowned and thought for a moment. Suddenly, he thought of something and his eyes flashed. He hurriedly said to everyone, Ningsu, take Tianqing and leave first. Arrange a place for him to stay and let him rest. Don't worry, I have a way to save Yao Yao. Tianqing, Bailey Ningsu, and Dr. Bailey looked at Yun Zhongqi and asked in unison, what method do you have? Yun Zhongqi shook his head and said with a serious face, I can't tell you about this. Just rest well and leave it to me. After saying that, he took Yun Yao out of the hall and into the most heavily guarded secret room in Cloud Spirit Palace. The secret room was 100 meters wide and was filled with heaven and earth spiritual qi. The walls were filled with cabinets that stored all kinds of elixirs and cultivation resources. In the corner of the secret room, there was a 10,000-year-old frozen jade bed. Yun Zhongqi asked Yun Yao to sit on the frozen jade bed so that she could cultivate in peace. After Yun Yao entered her cultivation state, Yun Zhongqi took out a treasure chest from the cabinet in the corner of the secret room. He carefully undid the layers of seals on the chest and spent a quarter of an hour to open it. Then, he took out a palm-sized dark golden jade token from the treasure chest. It has been more than 20 years. I have never used this item since he left it behind. I hope he will fulfill his promise and come here. Perhaps he is the only one who can save Yao Yao. Yun Zhongqi held the dark golden jade tablet with both hands and murmured with hope. After saying that, he channeled his divine soul's white light into the dark golden jade tablet. Crack. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.